What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. Today is August 9th, 2026, about 2:30 p.m. where I'm at right now. And we are continuing our 23rd book in our Book to React series, our open source library, our open source book club, where we read an entire text cover to cover on live with the people and break down and react to whatever we find between these pages. And the book we are in now is Marxism, Reparations, and the Black Freedom Struggle, compiled by our fabulous foundational Black American sister right here from Alabama, where your boy was born as well, Monica Moorehead, who you can see on the screen right here. In our previous episode, we finished the chapter on Black revolutionary women. We learned about Claudia Jones, we learned about Harriet Tubman, and many others as well, like Louise Thompson, and also the Nigerian women who did some direct action to get some workers' rights for the people in Nigeria in the Niger Delta. So there was a lot that we covered in the previous episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you checked it out, and hopefully you'll stay around as we jump into our second to last chapter today, which is Why Fight Back is Inevitable, chapter 8 in the book. I'm looking forward to reading this, also looking forward to getting any commentary from the people in the live streams. So we already have Altac in here, not paying attention to the pinned comment. That's an example for all of you out there listening. Read the pinned comment, pay attention to the pinned comment, and you won't get sent to the gulag instantaneously. That's how it works around here. Anyway, what did I want to say? Oh yeah, we have the horizontal live stream going. We have the vertical live stream going with all the trolls and the racists, and hopefully we'll catch some smart people that want to be a part of our community over here. You get what I'm saying? So hopefully we'll get some new people here in both live streams. And yeah, also everybody tune in later today for our weekly call-in show. We have a weekly call-in show where you can talk to me directly and get whatever you got to say off your chest to me. I'm not a coward. I'm not a pussy. I don't hide behind screens. I'm a real motherfucking person. So if you got something you want to say to me, call up later today. Call up later today and you'll be able to talk to me. Shout out to Key Alexander up in the live stream and everybody else tuning in right now. Without further ado, let's jump into chapter 8, Why Fight Back is Inevitable. So the first article we'll read is titled Black Youth, Repression, and Resistance by Lee Lonnie Dowell. And this is from a talk on the state of Black youth at a February 2nd, 2006 Workers' World Party meeting in New York City. All right. And the first image here, we can see are people out there protesting, stopping the attack on immigrant workers, fighting for workers' rights. It's crazy how so many things remain the same. It's crazy how so many things remain the same despite all the efforts we have made. But that doesn't mean that we stop fighting. Okay. Shout out to Zalaz A00. He says, I'm ready for war. We're always ready for the class war. And Jimmy Meyer says, segregationist baby boomers are dying off and they're throwing a fit. That is true. But once again, white supremacy and capitalist bourgeois thinking are not things that just inherently exist in people. And therefore, once those people die off, they will be gone from our earth forever. You wouldn't say the same thing about radical Muslims. You wouldn't say, well, there's a bunch of young Muslims coming up after the old jihadis have died off, so radical Islam will go away. Jihadism will die away. No, no, no. That's not the same thing. We are in an ideological war against white supremacy and capitalist thinking. So therefore, we have to continue to fight it. Because guess what those baby boomers did? They had racist kids and racist grandkids and capitalist bourgeois kids as well. You get what I'm saying? So Jimmy Meyer says, I'm 53. Tulsa was segregated when I was a kid. I grew up in that shit. Sorry you had to grow up like that, man. Sorry you had to grow up. But still in America today, there's de facto segregation. There's de facto segregation in worship at religious institutions like churches. There's de facto segregation in our public schools. There's de facto segregation in our neighborhoods. So a lot of things have remained the same as well. Okay, so who else? Jimmy Myers, and they also had their white grandson listening to NWA. It doesn't matter if you listen to NWA. Doesn't matter if you love LeBron James. Doesn't matter if you love, Barack Obama. There are still people out there who are married to black people, and they are racist as hell and capitalist in their thinking. Okay, so once again, we are in an ideological war. We are in an ideological war that will be continuous until our ultimate victory as the proletariat. Let's continue here. So, according to a report by the Census Bureau entitled "The Black Population in the United States," March 2002, blacks make up 13% of the civilian non-institutionalized population, meaning people not in nursing homes or correctional institutions. That they use these figures is interesting to me because we all know the deplorable numbers of black men and women in prison today. Of that 13%, 33%, according to the Bureau, were under 18. So that's roughly a third of our population. I want us to remember when we talk about black youth that we're talking about a third of the black population. Blacks accounted for about 1/4 of the population in poverty in 2001, with the poverty rate for black children at 30%, compared with 16% among all children and 10% for white children. 1 in 3 black men will serve time in prison. In 2000, nearly 30% of African Americans aged 18 to 24 had not completed high school. Black women account for 60% of women living with AIDS among women ages 13 to 24. Advocates for Youth says urban minority female adolescents reported high levels of worry about AIDS, but they reported equal or greater concern about having enough money to live on, general health, doing well in school, getting pregnant, and getting hurt in a street fight. For these women, HIV risk reduction could be secondary to basic needs such as housing, food, transportation, and childcare. And we can't have this conversation without mentioning the added hardship black lesbian, gay, bi, and trans youth face as we mark the 1-year anniversary of the death of Rashawn Brazel, a 19-year-old bisexual man who was brutally murdered here in New York City. The Working Group on Police and State Violence at the Audre Lorde Project has noted a marked increase in hate crimes against LGBT people of color. I remember being here in Budapest, Hungary. In a class, and the class was discussing, recent events in the world. Like, I believe around the time there was the race riot in the UK where right-wing extremists in Britain were burning down hotels where there were migrants who were staying. And, one of my white classmates raises her hand and says, it's really bad what's happening in the UK, but, every year things are getting better and young people are just sort of getting rid of their hateful ideas. And I had to raise my hand in opposition to that point, because the majority of the people that were out there burning the hotels and attacking migrants, not only in the UK last year when that happened, but also in the UK this year. I believe in Northern Ireland there was another race riot, as they say, though I like to call them pogrom, where the majority of the people who are out there are younger than me. I'm 35 years old, and there are people out there who are younger than me, full of hate, full of racism, full of xenophobia, full of bourgeois bullshit thinking out here. So once again, the murder of Rashawn Brazel, in the early 2000s in New York City goes to show that we are still a long way from acceptance of the least among us, the oppressed among us, the marginalized among us, okay? So, who else is here? Let's see. All right, Eric Petty Fishing has to go. Who else? Let's go here. Okay, so anybody else that wants to go to the gulag, just say something stupid and we will quickly get you out of here. All right? All right, Jimmy Myers is up in here. I'm going to let him live. I should have sent him to the re-education camp, but I'm going to let him live. Shout out to Random Account. When was the last time you personally experienced racism? That's a very, very good question. So recently, I was at a grocery store, and somebody told me that I need to go back to my country. I felt like that was racist. Over here in Budapest, Hungary, I'll walk down the street and find signs with neo Nazi stickers like White Lives Matter or Fuck BLM and stuff like that. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff here that I experience every day. Getting followed around in the stores here in Budapest, Hungary. What else? I was walking off the 4 and 6 tram here in Budapest, Hungary, and some I think he was an older teen, called me the N-word. Me and my wife were waiting for the tram one day, and we're being all lovey-dovey, and some young guy, definitely a guy younger than me, hangs out the window and starts yelling at us. You know what I mean? So I've experienced a lot of racism recently, just being here in Budapest, Hungary, and this isn't even going over all of my life. But shout out to Random Accounts for dropping that in here. I appreciate that a whole lot. Appreciate that, man. That's really, anytime you donate to this channel, it's going towards paying for my university tuition. You get what I'm saying? I'm out here studying sociology here in Budapest, Hungary. So anytime you donate to this channel, it's always appreciated. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, shout out to Random Account. All right. So we have to, all right, we're going to send Jimmy Myers. We might send Jimmy Myers out of here because this is personally a person that's obviously trolling. All right. All right. We have to send Jimmy Myers. He has to go to the re-education camp. Okay, Jimmy Myers is going to the re-education camp. All right, so here we have it. These statistics translate into real life hardship for Black youth. And meanwhile, Black youth remain one of the most demonized groups of people in the United States. The blame is always placed on the shoulders of those youths and their parents for the plethora of problems that they face, as opposed to governmental policies and institutionalized racism that began during slavery and continue to this day. Okay, let's go here. So Random Account drops another 5. I appreciate that. Let me be more specific. When was the last time you experienced racism in America? Well, I haven't lived in America since 2017, 18. I had a brief stint in America for like 6 months in 2020 when I lost my job in Tunisia because of COVID-19. So I was working in Miami, and I was the only Black man in the office. And there were a group of non-Black people. They were various shades. I would say most of them were, let's say, Latin people. They were mostly Latin people, right? They were from Brazil, Puerto Rico, one guy from Colombia as well. In fact, the Colombian guy was actually really nice. He was a lefty like me. But I was working in this office in Miami, Florida, doing cash advance on the phone. And these guys kept using the N-word in the office. These non-Black guys were like, hey, nigga, this. Oh, these niggas crazy, that. Can you believe it, nigga? And I was like, you know, I had to put my head down and just continue to work because that was my job at the time. But, you know, I don't go to work just saying, hey, nigga, this and hey, nigga, that. You know, when I'm in my private life, maybe. When I'm doing these live streams, maybe. But that's very unprofessional and I think patently racist, you know, to be saying the N-word in front of a Black man like that. So one day at the end of the workday, I just finally have enough. I had enough of a lot of the shit in the office. They were playing around, bullshitting, not actually doing their job. And meanwhile, I stayed on the phones doing my thing. Meanwhile, I got to overhear, hey, nigga, this, hey, nigga, that. You get what I'm saying? So one day I stand up and I say, y'all need to stop this bullshit. Y'all are playing around. Y'all are not doing your job. And on top of that, stop saying nigga in the office all the damn time. The next day I was fired. The next day I was fired. The very next day I was fired for standing up and saying, I don't like y'all saying the N-word in the office. This is a story I've told on my channel before. So, you know, it's nothing new. But for Random Accounts, thank you for asking. Okay. So, yeah, let's go here. All right. And user says, I think too many people confuse racism with prejudice and judgment. Some people just love to hate. That's the thing. We're separating racism from white supremacy. Racism might be with us until kingdom come. But white supremacy and capitalist exploitation are intrinsically tied and need to be defeated because they hurt all of us. You get what I'm saying? So, we have to send Joe Spector out of here as well because he's really stupid. He doesn't know that Niger is pronounced Niger rather than the N-word as he is trying to claim. So, yeah, he's got to go. Anyway, let's go here. Let's continue here. Demonization starts early. When Hurricane Katrina struck and the world saw every level of government doing nothing to help the mostly black people in the region, who did the media use as a division or a diversion first? Let's repeat that. When Hurricane Katrina struck and the world saw every level of government doing nothing to help the mostly black people in the region, who did the media use as a diversion first? Black youth, especially young black men, who were derided for looting. And the demonization starts early as grammar school. And the demonization starts as early as grammar school. In March of last year, 2 police officers entered an elementary school in St. Petersburg, Florida, after school officials called them to deal with a 5-year-old black girl who was being disruptive and punched a school official. Video footage shows her calm down before the officers approached, pinned her arms behind her back, and put her in handcuffs. She was put in the back of a police car and had her feet restrained as well after. Cops say she tried to kick out the window. Police officials later said that the officers had committed an error of judgment, but that they did not violate policy. Make that make sense. A 5-year-old black girl gets approached by grown men out here who are police officers. They beat her up, throw a 5-year-old girl in the back of a police car. Do you think that would happen if that little 5-year-old girl was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman or a white girl? Do you think that would happen? No, absolutely not. But the policing the black body is a part of maintaining capitalist and white supremacist hegemony, okay? So, the first round says treat everyone with dignity and respect, and this makes all these issues disappear. I agree. The United States should treat the Palestinian people with respect and dignity, and therefore stop the bombing of their homeland and stopping schools from burning with children inside of them. The United States government should treat the Venezuelan people with dignity and respect and not kidnapping their leaders. The United States government should treat the Cuban people with dignity and respect and stop starving them of natural resources like oil so that they can run their hospitals and stopping people from dying on the operating bed. The United States government should treat the indigenous people of this land, or that land, because I'm not in America right now, with dignity and respect. With dignity and respect. And give back their land, and also give them autonomy and sovereignty. The United States government needs to treat the black people who are descendants of slaves in America with dignity and respect and pay them reparations. So yes, the first round, I agree with you completely. We should treat everybody with dignity and respect and provide them justice. Okay? So we have to send some more people out of here. We're sending a lot of people out of here. All right. But yeah, where are my commissars at, man? I need some commissars up in here because the live stream is full of. All right. Did the USA treat Germany with dignity and respect when we removed Hitler? Yes, we did. Yes, we did. When we removed that evil man from the planet, Hitler removed himself from the planet, which is why he's my favorite person. My favorite person is Hitler for killing himself, for killing Hitler. I don't love anybody more than Hitler for killing Hitler. Shout out to Hitler for committing that. And I hope all of Hitler's followers do the same thing. All right. So let's go here. We have to send some more people out of here. Okay. More people gots to go. And first round, you have to go to the re-education camp. All right. We have to send some people out of here as well. All right. Shout out to Curtis Shine, who says, keep pointing out the truth. Shout out to you as well. So 2 days after the incident in Florida, the assistant principal at PS 34 in Queens, New York, made her 13 Haitian students sit on the floor and eat their rice and beans with their hands. She screamed at them in front of the rest of the students in the lunchroom. In Haiti, they treat you like animals, and I will treat you the same way here. Later, the principal pulled the students out out of class, tried to convince them it never happened, and offered some of them ice cream if they changed their stories. That's insane. That's insane. I had something similar happen to me in sixth grade. I'll never forget it. I had two black male teachers who had a profound effect on my life, Mr. Naylor and Mr. January from Lexington Elementary School. I'll never forget those guys. But one day, Mr. Naylor got really upset because the class was acting bad. And Lexington was like 50% white and 50% black. At least that's how I remember it. I remember being like equal amounts of black kids and white kids in the school. But one day, Mr. Naylor says the class is acting bad and brings all the black kids outside in the hallway and goes on this long, raccoonish, I would say, in retrospect, type of rant about you black kids need to learn how to do better and act better. Look at the little white kids in class. They're not over there raising hell. And keep in mind, he was wrong too. You know, teachers sometimes see what they want to see. And also at the same time, there was a study done that whenever black kids act up in class, they're noticed more by their teachers, and they're noticed more by their teachers, and they're also at the same time punished harder by the school administration. Okay, so let's go here. Who else got to go? All right, shout out to Deddy Bearkai, who told somebody off in the chat saying that they're not a capitalist, they're a worker with Stockholm syndrome. That's the best way to frame it up. I'm gonna start telling that to people. Okay. All right. So the first round in the horizontal live stream says people who never owned slaves should not be forced to pay reparations to people who were never slaves. Okay, this is ridiculous because we're not asking individuals to pay reparations for slavery. We're talking about the corporations like Citibank who own slaves, Chase Bank who own slaves. We're talking about countries that still exist today that benefited primarily from slavery. And if you exist in a country that benefited from slavery, then that country is responsible, not you individually as well. And so, once again, black people and white people exist in America. We all pay taxes to the genocidal white supremacist U.S. government. Therefore, all of us collectively will be paying reparations for the harm done to the descendants of slaves. And the same people who say that America shouldn't be ashamed of its history of slavery, or you shouldn't have to suffer for the sins of the past, are the same people who say, yeah, I'm proud to be an American because of what my ancestors did in the past. Or look at all the privileges we have as Americans for all the work our ancestors did in the past. So what is it? Is it that you can't claim the past at all? Or is it that you only want to pick and choose what parts of the past you want to be proud of and claim? Okay, so the first rounder is a white supremacist or a suspected white supremacist. Okay, the first round brings up another white supremacist talking point. Should blacks in Africa who sold blacks into slavery be forced to pay reparations? Once again, the first round has a neoliberal individualist mind state. We are not asking for individual Africans or individual people anywhere in the world to pay reparations for slavery. We are only talking about states that exist today. There is a state that exists today that owned slaves. A state that exists today. It's called the United States. It's called Spain. It's called Portugal. It's called France. It's called the United Kingdom. Those are states that still exist today. There are no African states that existed during the time of slavery because they were colonies. I feel like we're doing basic history 101. I think we're doing basic history 101. Most of the African countries that exist today were created in the 20th century and gained their independence in the late 20th century, well after the time of slavery's abolition. So the first round, that answers your question. If a state exists today that directly was involved in slavery, they should have to pay reparations, not individuals, okay? So that's making it absolutely clear. Shout out to OG Kicks up in the live stream. Shout out to OG Kicks. He says he's got 100. I hope OG Kicks got 100 reasons why he hates white supremacy. And I hope OG Kicks has 100 responses to white supremacist talking points. Okay? And shout out to Deddy Barkai, who says they had de facto slavery for 60 years in the South. Yes, through Jim Crow and the Black Codes, etc., etc. All right. The Jewel Lynn Kirkin says the Civil War paid the debt to slavery. That's ridiculous. That's so ridiculous that you get banned forever. You get banned forever. Don't ever come around here saying stupid shit like that. Okay, so most recently in January, officials in the Brockton Public School District in Massachusetts suspended a 6-year-old Haitian boy from an elementary school for the outrageous charge of sexual harassment. Can a 6-year-old do sexual harassment? That's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I know the last 3 examples are focused on children and not technically youth. These are just the reported and most outrageous cases. Who knows how much psychological trauma is inflicted on Black youth, considered a quote-unquote lost cause by many authorities and schools across the country. The psychological wounds from incidents like these will stick with a person throughout their youth, if not longer, especially when we consider the lack of health care, including counseling, for many Black children. This demonization continues throughout their lives with zero tolerance policies, police brutality, attacks on affirmative action, discrimination, and so on. All right. Shout out to Iman Manifesto, who also says states like the Netherlands. Exactly. If a country exists today like the Netherlands, which basically kicked the whole shit off. I'm going to keep it real. Sorry, Iman Manifesto, but the world will be a better place had those early Dutch capitalists not existed. The Dutch started this whole shit with the Dutch East Indian Company, you know, shipping slaves all out through the Americas. Yeah, man, the world will be a better place had the Dutch just sank into the sea. I'm going to keep it real. Sorry, Iman Manifesto. But yeah, let's go here. And here goes the first round. Here goes the first round. He's going to say, the first round is doing, listen, buddy, I'm not racist. I have a Black best friend. Listen to the first round's comments in the horizontal live stream. He says, no part of me is racist in any fashion. But I think you, plus humanity, will make more progress if we stopped looking at color. Are we talking about color? I want to ask everybody out here. Are we talking about color? Or are we talking about exploitative capitalism? Are we talking about people working as de facto slaves, not only in Africa today for 25 cents for multinational companies like Chevron Texaco, but also talking about people in the global South, in Asia, in Latin America? Are we talking about color? I want to ask all of you. Are we out here just saying, you know, we just got to get rid of white people so bad? Imam Manifesto says, please roast this racist fool. He's roasting himself. You just stop talking about color, guys, and focus simply on loving every person we encounter. Thanks for reading. In the first round, we do love all people. We believe in the inherent value of all people, whether they be Palestinian youth who are under the bombs of Israelis and Americans, whether they be Iranian women who have died because of America's imperialist ambitions in the Middle East, whether they be Black people in the Caribbean who have seen their democratically elected leaders overthrown, whether they be white people in America who have had their wages and living standards continually devalued over time by a capitalist class that only seeks to exploit them and hate them. We love all people, unlike you right-wingers who are inherently wicked and evil, because you believe that there are some people who deserve more than others. People like you, first round, make me sick. If you were here in my presence right now, I'd fucking slap the shit out of you. I'd slap the shit out of you for coming in here trying to get us off track from actually talking about loving all people. And here you are talking about all this bullshit. People like you absolutely make me sick, and I encourage you to call in today. Later today, we're having a call-in show. And all of you right-wing motherfuckers who are probably Pakistani bots anyway, who I shouldn't let get under my skin, all of you can actually talk to me face to face. But I know most likely what you're going to do is just troll on the stream, because none of y'all actually have any ideas. All y'all can actually do is just call up and blast the lines with N-word, 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 and all sorts of shit, actually, instead of actually articulating any ideas. And I take back the point of actually resorting to violence for your stupid ideas, because most likely this is what you wanted me to do. I take back the point. I would have slapped the shit out of you, but I beat you down intellectually until you rescinded those words. Okay? I don't encourage anybody to resort to violence. But I really hate this. How come I've been doing this so fucking long and people are still fucking stupid? We've read over 20 books on this channel. We've read over 20 books on this channel. And the audience is still fucking stupid. I'm not talking about guys like Kamal or Nelson or Imani Manifesto. I'm not talking about people like that. But people like you are really fucking stupid. I hate when you right-wingers escape containment. When you right-wingers escape containment, it's the worst thing. The best thing we could do is just put all you right-wingers in the zoo somewhere. Because that's what you are, animals. You're fucking animals. Animals, I swear. All right. All right, Sizzle Moonsong says, please don't let the haters make you crash out. They just want to steal your joy and energy. That's facts. That's facts. But if first round makes another right-wing talking point, we're gonna have to send him to the re-education camp, okay? Because he's making the whole live stream off topic, okay? So, to Imam Manifesto says, why are you sorry to me? I don't know if you're from the Netherlands, and sometimes people love their countries, and I don't want to just hate on somebody's country, you know, especially if it's precious to them. You know what I'm saying? But I still stand on business and say the worst thing that ever happened to the world was the Netherlands. The worst thing that ever happened to the world is the Netherlands, okay? All right. Yeah, let's continue here. So, resistance. In spite of all the very real hardships that black youth face and the demonization on top of that, black youth are still resistant. Let's state for the record that just surviving in a system that has placed all the odds against you is resisting. Often, even the most well-meaning will overlook the resistance that black youth undertake every day. An article by researcher Kathy Cohen points out, young African Americans have been active in instrumental movements and politics, whether it is the Black Power movement, the anti-apartheid movement, or the organized mobilization against mass incarceration. African American youth have been and continue to be at the center of these efforts, providing leadership, analysis, and energy. She continues, many African American young people find themselves at the center of many national political struggles and are, therefore, politicized at a much earlier age than more privileged youth. Increased access to information through the internet, television, and popular culture, as well as the constant presence of the state, means that the age of political engagement is spiraling downward. Many African American youth engage with the state on a regular basis through state-run healthcare policies, through their own experiences or their children's experience in the public schools, and through encounters with the police. Thus, we are sorely mistaken if we proceed as if young people, who are often the targets of institutional and state campaigns, programs, and policies, do not have strong opinions about and take action to better their position in society, their life chances, and their distribution of power in their communities and their countries. And doesn't this make perfect sense? It's absurd to think that black youth aren't politically active. Many don't have a choice. They are propelled into activism by the attack of the state on their lives. I'm reminded of the Somerville Five in Massachusetts as a case in point. 5 young black men who have had to become activists around their own lives after they were brutally assaulted by police officers in an unprovoked attack, and then expelled from school before their cases were even heard. Damn, I don't remember that story, but it sounds like something I probably heard on the news back in 2005 or 6, whenever that happened. But yeah, I think, you know, one of the positive things about being black, especially in America, but I would say anywhere in the world, is that inherently blackness is a political identity. It's foisted upon us. It's an ascribed identity that has political implications. And therefore, just being black alone in this world, or being labeled as such, gives you an analysis of our political system, our economic system, our social system, and how the least of us are treated. I believe it was Cornel West or Michael Eric Dyson who said just being black alone in America gives you like a PhD in sociology or something like that, because it's a lived experience. Every single day you walk outside, you understand that your life might be in danger because of white supremacist attacks, people in your own community going after you, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's and also the poverty that's around you, the injustices in this world, in the court system, for example. So there's a lot that has to be understood just by being black, right? So yeah, shout out to shout out to Sizzle Moon Song up in the live stream. Shout out to Iman Manifesto, who says, I'm in the United Snakes. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought maybe because you brought up the Netherlands, you might be Dutch. I'm sorry. I didn't know. October 7th was the result of colonizers dominating and mistreating a nation of people. Once again, a very good point from Iman Manifesto, which is why we advocate for all people, and also why we see that the struggle for Palestinian liberation is directly tied for our fight for black liberation, and also a fight against capitalist exploitation. There's billions of dollars being made off of the death and destruction of Gaza. There's billions of dollars being made on the continued oppression of black people. And primarily, the billions of dollars are going to defense contractors, weapons manufacturers, police forces, entire state agencies where people are getting bonuses and salaries by how many black people you arrest and how many Palestinians you kill. You get what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. All right. Shout out to Imam Manifesto. White people have confused and lied to Nene D, and she believes them. What is Nene D saying in the live stream? I don't know who Nene D is. All right. All right. So, Nene D, confused, now I'm wealthy and retired. Are you, Manifesto? Okay, I'll let you two have a conversation in the chat. Iman Manifesto, remember you are a commissar with awesome powers, so use them wisely so that we make sure this live stream remains a place for civil discussion and also intellectual discussion. And remember that Nene D might be a Pakistani troll. I know it looks like a busty black woman. Oh no, he has Remy Ma. Nene D looks like she has Remy Ma in her profile pic. I know it looks like a sexy, busty black woman. And Iman Manifesto, I know what it's like to be a man chatting online with bad bitches. But remember, that might be a Pakistani boy somewhere getting paid a penny per tweet just to get us off track of talking about liberation and revolution. Okay? So Nene D says that's her pick. That's Remy Ma. I know them titties anywhere. I know that blonde bang anywhere. Remy Ma is a bad bitch. Nene D, you are a Pakistani boy somewhere with a very small penis and dirty sandals somewhere. Okay? Yo, let's Nene D, you are not coming on live just so that you can show me your small Pakistani cock. I don't want to see it. I want to see Remy Ma's big, voluptuous black titties. I do not want to see Nene D, your small Pakistani cock, okay, in your little hovel somewhere, getting AdSense for distracting us from talking about revolution. Okay? So, continuing here. But Nene D, you are welcome to come on live and speak with your Pakistani black scent. You are welcome. You are welcome to come on live later with your Pakistani black scent when we do the call-in show later today. There will be a call-in show later today, okay? So, music is also used by many black youth as a form of resistance. It's a regular occurrence in my life that I'm approached by some young brother on the subways selling their own political conscious music. Music they tell me they created to educate and inspire others to action. But the activism among black youth isn't isolated from a connection to the global struggle for justice. In the past 2 years, I've been on delegations to Cuba with the Venceremos Brigade and Venezuela for the World Youth Festival, and each time I was pleasantly surprised by the number of black youth that were on these delegations. Not because I thought that youth of color wouldn't be in solidarity with Cuba and Venezuela or revolutionary youth from around the world. I was surprised because we all know that it's not exactly cheap to travel to another part of the world. To do so takes real dedication, fundraising, taking time off jobs or schools, etc. With Cuba, there's the added pressure that one can face huge fines or even jail time upon returning to the United States. Okay, let's keep it absolutely real. There might have been some passport bros in the Venceremos Brigade. You get what I'm saying? I mean, what brothers? Come on, keep it real. What brothers in the U.S. are going to pass up a free trip to Cuba or Venezuela to do some humanitarian work in solidarity with the revolution in Venezuela or Cuba? Keep it real. If not, if not one of the motivations, it's probably a big part. Hey, brothers, we got a trip to go to Cuba and Venezuela. for revolution. Yeah, sure. Let's go. Let's go. It's not that we're going for, big Cuban baddies. It's not going. We're not going to see some some culo. We're not going for culo. No, not at all. Not at all. Venceremos. Oh, come on, man. Come on, man. There were some passport bros on the Venceremos Brigade. I'm going to keep it real. Yes, it's international solidarity, but where the baddies at? Where the baddies at in Cuba and Venezuela? Come on, keep it real. Okay. All right. Imam Manifesto talking about Democrats startling KKK and having trans people teaching kids in school. Nini is a Pakistani boy. I'm telling you. N16 HTW says, speak for yourself. I love me a Latina. I love Latina people too. I love Latin people. I'm all for the liberation of Latin America. I'm all for liberation. I'm saying that we need to help out our brothers and especially our sisters. We need to help out our brothers and especially our sisters in Cuba and Venezuela. Venceremos. All right. So, still the same G says you might get your chance after Cuba Libre. No. Because you are speaking about Cuba and their government being overthrown, you immediately get executed. You immediately get executed and sent to the gulag. Okay? I hope your body is found in a mass grave. Still the same G. How dare you say that the Cuban government needs to be overthrown? The Cuban government has done more for its people than America has done to kill people. Okay? So, that's all I got to say. Let's continue here. In Venezuela, one of the most moving things to me was the reception of the United States delegation by the other youth delegations. We were told time and time again, we do not consider you to be your country. You are under the gun yourselves, and you are resisting, and you are our sisters and brothers. And I just think about how energizing that was for me, and how energizing it must have been for some of these youth who have probably been demonized most of their lives. So what's the state of black youth? Well, it's not a pretty state. There's hardship and brutality and sorrow at every turn. From the most subtle to the most institutionalized, racism, sexism, homophobia, and violence. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's those youth themselves making change and taking their lives back. All right. So that was a great article. Who was that written by? I forgot the name. Yes, this was written by Leilani Dowell. Shout out to Leilani Dowell for highlighting how black youth are some of the most radical people in America, and also some of the most demonized and policed and institutionalized people in America. And I don't believe those two things are, separated. Okay. So, American Muscle 69 says, this another cop hater. No, we don't. We love police on this channel. Blue lives matter. Blue lives matter. We support police in the sense that we want police to have a safer job. We want police to be able to walk outside and do their job to, protect capital interest as it is right now, without the threat of being killed. Therefore, that's why we want to get rid of the Second Amendment. We want to abolish the gun so that people can do their jobs without the threat of being killed. So we love police on this channel. We also support the police unions, not as they stand right now, but we support any workers who are unionized and organized. So yes, you're welcome here if you are a cop lover like me, but it also has to be intrinsically tied to a love for all working class people, and to see all working class people have their ultimate liberation by seizing the means of production and also seizing the state and creating the workers' state. Okay. So Carlito Oracle says, who was the article written by? Leilani Dowell. That's who it was written by. Okay. Nini got her dough up on the bang bus. White men customers only. Imani. You wildin', boy. He wildin'. I saw a comment earlier from Nini saying that Pakistani Nini made the claim that I'm over here blaming white people. We're not blaming white people because there's black people that are capitalists too. There's black people that are exploitative too. There's black people with a way of thinking that if I can get up over on my people by paying them less and making them work more, then I'm going to benefit. And that's perfectly fine. And we want to fight against this type of thinking as well. We also want to fight against a type of thinking amongst black people that says that, loyalty to the American state is justified. Loyalty to the American state is natural for us. We are fighting against that. Okay, so Nini, am I mad that I'm broke? Yes, I am very mad that I'm broke, which is why I'm a communist. Nini says, y'all mad because y'all broke. Yes! Yes, bitch, yes. Nene says, I'm a boss, you losers. You a boss, so we want to eat you, bitch. Yes. What type of shit is this? What type of dumb bitch? So Nene says, let's compare bank accounts. Mine has negative $1.45 in it right now. So yes, bitch, let's compare bank accounts and let me take all of yours. What type of shit is this? Brokies. Yes. There's nothing wrong with being broke. I'm not ashamed to say I'm broke. In a capitalist system, Nene, all of us are about to be broke. They want to continue to pay all of us less. They're talking about automating jobs right now. Doesn't matter if you have an advanced degree. Doesn't matter if you're a nurse, a lawyer, a doctor. Pretty soon, all of us are going to be on an app somewhere ready to clock in for a job. And we're independent contractors. So there's no reason for us to get healthcare, retirement, anything like that. Come on now. Come on now. Let's compare bank accounts. All right, you got the big ass bank account. Therefore, your value as a person is much greater than mine, Nene. Does that help you? Does that help you? Does that help you? Does that help you in this world? Come on now. What type of shit is this? Who comes in here? Who comes in here to a communist channel and says, y'all broke? That's why y'all mad. Yes, duh, bitch. Duh. What type of stupid shit is this? Duh, nigga. Oh my God. Anyway, racial profiling aims to divide workers. This was written by Julius Dykes, and this is from a talk at a Buffalo, New York Workers' World Party Forum, September 16th in the year 2000. In 1942, over 120,000 Americans were stripped of their businesses and their homes and incarcerated for the duration of World War II. They had committed no offense. They were convicted of no crime. They were subjected to curfews, arrested, had their property confiscated, and were imprisoned because of the color of their skin and national origin, or the national origin of their parents. The internment of Japanese Americans in 1942 was an egregious example of what can happen when skin color, national origin are substituted for evidence and become by themselves a basis for suspicion and punishment. But it was not the only egregious example. During the time of the internment, Jim Crow laws and formal racial segregation existed in the South and were so reified that virtually no one could imagine it ending. Today, the internment of U.S. citizens of Japanese descent is nearly universally recognized as something shameful, an act of war hysteria and racism. Similarly, a few today are prepared to defend the formality of Jim Crow laws. But on highways and streets, in airports, and at customs checkpoints, skin color, irrespective of economic class, is once again being used by law enforcement officials as a cause for suspicion and a sufficient reason to violate people's rights. Okay, so this is something I gotta say right here. I think every time we talk about Japanese internment, we should highlight that this was done under FDR. A lot of us leftists have some generally fond, vague notions of FDR. Keep in mind, if this was a president like Woodrow Wilson or Teddy Roosevelt, you would see it every single time. Japanese internment was done under the Woodrow Wilson administration or Roosevelt administration. But the other Roosevelt, FDR, seems to skate by amongst leftists and liberals, even, you know what I'm saying, because we don't associate Japanese internment with him. But I do think this needs to be highlighted. Back in my liberal days, before I went full on red, before I went to the radical left, I had some fond ideas of FDR. But as I looked more into FDR, you know what I'm saying, how, the Japanese internment, his vague or tacit acceptance of segregation and not really, fighting against segregation. I have more of a negative view of FDR. So yeah. So let's go here. Iman says, I had to show Nene stupidity, comrade. Okay, if y'all want to be ignorant, you can go back and forth and be ignorant. But keep in mind, Iman Manifesto, that is a Cambodian child you're talking to. That is not a grown-ass, beautiful, voluptuous black woman with some Maserati Triple X knockers. Okay, that is a small Cambodian child that you're talking to, just trying to do their job, getting paid a penny every time they leave some racist or distracting comment in our live stream. So keep that in mind. All right, I just want you to keep that in mind, Imam Manifesto. So, if the feds come knocking at your door and say, what did you say to this little boy? I don't blame me. I gave you the warning. Nene is not a real woman. That is not a real Black American woman. That is a small, Filipino child somewhere just trying to make ends meet. So have some grace, okay? Nene reveals her insecurities from having come up working class and segregated and racialized. I know, right? Grew up in New Jersey or New York, wherever, where racism and capitalist exploitation is rampant, and coming on here with, basically MAGA talking points. How does that happen? How did that happen? Okay. Anyway, tool of racist repression. First of all, let's establish right from the beginning that racial profiling is and always has been just another racist repressive tool of the state to keep Black people and other people of color oppressed, intimidated, in fear, and always in the midst of a potential frame-up. This policy, like many other anti-people policies, has been intensified in the past decade or so for various reasons. One of the main reasons is to feed the ever-growing prison for profit system. Another is the fact that more and more people are coming into political consciousness and seeing this rotten, corrupt system for what it is and resisting it. And this practice of profiling can serve as a subtle means to divide us and leave us all vulnerable. Racial profiling may be a relatively new term, but is definitely an old concept. Tracy Macklin, a professor at Boston University School of Law, says that the problem of driving while Black can trace its historical roots to a time in early U.S. society when court officials in cities like Philadelphia permitted constables and ordinary citizens the right to take up all Black persons seen gadding abroad without their master's permission. And what are the consequences of racial profiling for African Americans or Asians, Arabs, Latinos as a matter of local, state, or federal government practice? All right, going to the horizontal live stream, my guy Kamal, who is now a commissar, says, can't end slavery, too many residuals, so they don't call you slaves no more, they call you criminals. My son, Hot 97 Freestyle. That's fire. Those are fire bars. Those are fire bars. All right. So, Nene in here says, get your bread up, you peons. Okay, let us eat cake. We will eat cake, and that cake will be your body, Nene. That cake will be your body. Listen, for anybody who wants to say that, in a capitalist system, all you got to do is work hard. I work hard every single day. There is not a day in my life when I do not work and get money. I'm an English teacher. I have classes nearly every day, multiple classes, here in Budapest, Hungary, and also online. I work for, if I think about it, like 4 different English teaching academies. I also do some food delivery as well. I also do my YouTube projects. And on top of that, I do writing for Culturalist Theory, another YouTube channel which all of you should check out. And also, I'm actively looking for more jobs, always looking for more jobs, sending out my CV, applying on LinkedIn and all other websites as well. And what did I get for all of that hard work? What do I get every single day for the hard work I do and barely the 5 hours of sleep I get every single day because I got to grind? A bank account with negative $1.35. And no, I'm not some extravagant spender. No, I don't live above my means. My rent, which I'm very thankful to have an apartment at this price, is about $800. My rent and also my utilities is about $800. You get what I'm saying? And yet and still, because of the rising cost of groceries, the rising cost of the utilities, and the rising rent as well, because it wasn't always $800, it's hard as hell to keep up, even if you're working 24 hours a day with the multiple jobs I have. You get what I'm saying? Which is why I'm in university right now, to try to get a better job, so I don't let things hold me down. For all of you people out there who say you're just blaming the system or the white man I'm always trying to get ahead. I'm literally in school right now and trying to get better jobs. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, this is adulthood, as the true one said. It's been this way since I was 23 years old, and I've been out on my own ever since. And yet and still, I've been able to do some incredible things with my life. I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to get married. I've been able to enroll back in university. I've been able to run a semi-successful YouTube channel and have been able to maintain my career as an English teacher for nearly a decade now. But yet and still, things are hard as hell, Things are hard as hell to maintain. And I'm sure many of you out there are going through the same thing. Maybe you make way more money than me, but yet and still you're seeing that it's harder and harder to keep up. So regardless of your race, regardless of your gender, regardless of your nationality, many people in the world, and I'd argue most people in the world, are going through the struggle right now of financially trying to keep your head above water. So I want everybody to know here that I'm not sending out doomer type of energy or messaging. I'm not saying that shit is so fucked up that you should just sit on the couch and check out. I'm saying that we got to struggle. We got to strive. You have to continue to fight back. And part of fighting back is, of course, continuing to rise in your own life, seeking the most happiness you can for yourself, and also trying to work hard so you can provide for yourself and your family. But also fighting back is fighting back against the system and ways of thinking that got us in this mess in the first place. We got into this mess in the first place through neoliberal capitalism. And even before then, exploitative capitalism through slavery. And also in the middle, in between, exploitative capitalism in the wage economy as well. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Okay, Nene is talking about manifesto. Do I need to get your addy? Y'all niggas over here play fighting and flirting and probably going to end up fucking. But once again, Iman Manifesto, you're going to think you're going to have a big black baddie pulling up at your door, and then you're going to see a small Pakistani there saying, hello, mister. Hello, mister. What is that? You get what I'm saying? All right. Shout out to Kamal, who says, you have an international Nick Cannon type hustle. That's funny, but please don't compare me to Nick Cannon. I fucked a lot of hoes in my life, but I don't have a bunch of kids. Thank God. I have no kids. I have no kids. I done dropped dick on multiple continents, but I ain't leave nothing behind. That's facts. Okay? That's crazy. Anyway, we have to send some people out of here. All right. So shout out to Lisa Poi Hagatama, who says, how many countries have you traveled to? A lot. There's just a lot. Anyway. All right. Let's continue here. 1976, Supreme Court upholds profiling. In 1976, the U.S. Supreme Court supported the actions of the U.S. Border Patrol agents who selected cars for inspection in Southern California, partly on the basis that drivers were of Mexican descent. The Supreme Court maintained that since the intrusions by the U.S. agents on selected drivers were quite limited and only involved a brief detention of travelers, during which all that is required is a response to a brief question or two and possibly the production of a document, the practice was upheld. So once again, the Supreme Court upheld racial profiling as right. So I don't want to hear anybody saying that America is not institutionally racist. When the Supreme Court in 1976 and also in 2026 with the increase of ICE and they're explicitly racially profiling people, I don't want to hear anybody say America is not institutionally racist. We say it's okay because of the color of your skin or the language that you speak, that somehow you deserve more attention from the police or Border Patrol or ICE. Crazy. All right. And recently in upstate New York, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit ruled that police officers did not violate the Constitution when they stopped every black man in Oneonta on September 4th, 1992, after a white woman said she had been attacked in her home by a young black man. The controversy surrounding racial profiling is intense. In the national spotlight are two New Jersey state troopers, John Hogan and James Kenner. They were indicted on September 7th, 1999, on attempted murder and assault charges resulting from a shooting during a routine traffic stop on the New Jersey Turnpike in 1998 that left 3 of the 4 unarmed young black and Latino men involved seriously wounded. The troopers were also indicted earlier that year on 19 misdemeanor charges of falsifying their activity logs to conceal the disproportionate number of minority drivers they were accused of stopping on the highway. When you look at the disproportionate profiling of blacks and Latinos, now you can clearly see that it equates blacks with crime, with wrongdoings of some sort. And in recent years, this, guys, has been the war on drugs, which is no more than a mass frame-up of African Americans and other people of color. I'm going to say something that my guy Kamal does not like, but reading about these stories of police brutality reminds me even more why I am hate watching The Wire. I know a lot of people out there love The Wire, and I'm watching it right now for the first time. I'm on episode 8 in season 1, and last night I watched the episode where they're doing the drug bust, and I forgot the name of the police officer. It's like the quiet guy in the office who makes the model boats in the glass jars or whatever, right? He goes outside to do a sting operation where he pretends to be a wino on the block, and then when they see their suspected target, this black man swings around and smashes a bottle in the man's face. You get what I'm saying? Unprovoked. And also in that same episode, there was the episode with Fredro Starr from Onyx, and he's cursing out the police officers, being a stand-up individual, not snitching, essentially saying, I want my lawyer, fuck you pig motherfuckers. And the police then beat the shit out of him. And what I hate about The Wire is how they sort of normalize the police violence in there and the police brutality. There's the character played by Tristan Wilds. I forgot the name of his character. But this nigga, every episode is getting beat up by the police. I forgot the name of Tristan Wilds' character in The Wire. But every episode, he's getting beat up by the police. And then this nigga stands up and be like, y'all got me good this time, huh? What the fuck is that? What is that? I hate that. I hate how The Wire makes it seem like the police are justified in beating up predominantly black men that they're pursuing for the crime of selling drugs. And, how they sort of make the black men that are witness to it or victim to it just sort of eat it on the chin. I hate that. Sorry, Kamal. But did anybody else get this feeling while watching The Wire that somehow it's propaganda to the ultimate extent where they make you feel like, yeah, they're right to beat up those people. Yeah, the police need to be unhinged and unruly. Every episode, a nigga gets beat up by the police. Every episode. And then the black man stands up and be like, you got me. You got me. What is that? What the hell is that? Freeman is the man. That red hat trick. I know, Kamal, you love The Wire. And I'm not mad at anybody that loves The Wire. But I'm trying to love it. I am literally trying. I'm literally trying to get through season 1 and be like, it's got to get better. It's got to get better. But Omar already is snitching with the police. Omar is sitting there watching the police do a multiracial coalition to beat up Fredro Starr, a handcuffed black man in an interrogation room. And then Omar is like, damn, bro, they know how to get down. What is that? What is that? No. Tristan Wild played Michael. Is that the name? That's crazy. He played Michael. And then Michael B. Jordan is playing Buddy or Booty. I forgot the name of Michael B. Jordan's character. Anyway, police brutality is not cool. That shouldn't be hard to say. Okay? All right. So let's go here. Imani Manifesto says The Wire is slick. The Wire is slick. What you mean by The Wire is slick? The police should not be beating up anybody who doesn't have a weapon on them, who did not attack them first, okay? I would argue the police should never be like just beating up on people. I might understand the police might have to fight to arrest somebody, but does that mean that you beat a man while he's handcuffed in an interrogation room, or while in the pursuit, while you arrest somebody, you spin around and smack a man with a glass bottle? Like, what the fuck is now? What is that? What is that? I hate The Wire, bro. Okay. All right. So let's go here. Let's go here. So the real drug dealers. In the 1970s, when tons of heroin were being shipped from Southeast Asia and brought into the United States, we saw poor communities throughout the U.S. addicted to heroin. This enabled the ruling class to further destabilize and exploit African Americans and label them criminals. And this gave the ruling class a political justification to wage war against black people. But we know who the real drug dealers are. We know it's the U.S. government that makes arms deals and drug deals with puppet governments set up by U.S. imperialism in third world countries. And we also know it's the big U.S. banks that launder the drug money. But you and I are supposed to believe that black youths are somehow responsible for bringing drugs into this country. I read an article that was written in the 1980s that said that at that time, the drug trade was worth more than $300 billion. So you know it's worth a lot more money than that by now. But you and I are supposed to believe that somehow over $300 billion a year is coming through the projects within the black community of this country. That's absurd. It's insanity. But unfortunately, when this racial profiling and stereotypical thinking starts to seep into the minds of our working class, through fake cop shows and fabricated crime statistics about blacks and other people of color, this becomes a real threat to our movement. It can divide us. Because this whole issue of racial profiling, just like all the other racist policies, reinforces white supremacist ideology that is rooted in capitalist society. That's why it's imperative that white progressives come out in full force against this policy. Ultimately, the police, as a force of repression against the majority, must be eradicated, along with the whole capitalist state, branch and root. I couldn't agree more. Okay, Kamal says Michael B. Jordan's character was Wallace. Okay, my bad. I could have swore they referred to him as Buddy in one episode. All right, Kamal says, I still respect your opinion, and real-life Baltimore residents spoke out about your point after season 3. Okay, no spoilers. Please don't give me any Wire spoilers. I'm watching it every single day. I'm watching it along with The Sopranos. I finished season 1 of The Sopranos, and now I'm trying to finish season 1 of The Wire right now. So no spoilers, please. I will do a full review of The Wire, hopefully with acting. That would be great. But season 1 is just hard, man. I can't watch a cop show. Every time I see a cop on my TV screen, I yell at the screen like an old white man when he sees an interracial couple. I just can't do it. I just can't do it, man. I'm trying to get over that ism in my head. But I can't, especially when the police are beating up people. Like how much police brutality can I watch on my screen? You get what I'm saying? Anyway, Kamal says, that's where Clarence Thomas lost me, siding with police beating handcuffed subjects. That's true. Clarence Thomas was ruling on the court for a lot of these rulings that justified racial profiling and police brutality. Good point. All right. Going here, Imam Manifesto says they did that scene to humanize the cops who brutalized Fredro in the next scene. Yeah, I don't know about that. Did you ban Nene? He got tired of flirting with Nene, so he banned it. Imam Manifesto, you a bad boy for that. Anyway, I don't know what happens in the next episode if Fredro is in episode 8. I didn't start it yet, but come on now. I lost respect for all the police officers in that scene. You get what I'm saying? Because even the brother, who's that tall, dark-skinned brother who never smiles and walks like a robot? Who was that guy? I forgot his name. The brother that always walks like this, and he's like the captain of the drug task force. He was upset a few episodes ago, like in episode 4, that one of his cops, the Polish guy, smacked some kid with a gun till his eye got knocked out. And now here he is a few episodes later beating up on a black man just because he was calling for his lawyer and calling Klima a dyke. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Okay. Bodie was played by J.D. Williams. Is Bodie the bald guy who got demoted to the low-rise apartments and he's on the couch? And he's the nephew of Barksdale? Is that, Imam Manifesto says Nini's gone. Anyway, Don Romero says, you don't have to watch stupid shit, traumatizing movies. It's you watching stupid shit. I mean, it's The Wire. It's considered the greatest American television show of all time. I've heard this all my life. The Wire. You got to watch The Wire. Now I'm finally doing it. Okay. Bodie is the light-skinned bald guy. Okay, so Bodie is played by Tristan Williams. Is Bodie played by Tristan Wilds? So Bodie is Tristan Wilds, right? Anyway, so Don Romero says, you're already in love with it. Maybe it takes time if you learn to love it. I don't love The Wire so far. Maybe I will as the seasons progress, but I'm loving The Sopranos, man. The Sopranos is excellent. The Sopranos is excellent. And I wish The Wire was more like The Sopranos in the sense that what if Avon Barksdale was the primary character? You just let Leon run the show, and the show was just centered on Avon Barksdale running this drug empire, but he also sees a therapist. You get what I'm saying? I wish The Wire was like The Sopranos because I just want to know about the Barksdale operation, his relationship with Stringer Bell, and the insides of that. I've heard that season 2 and 3 go more into the Barksdale story rather than this police saga. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, I wonder. Hopefully that actually happens. Okay. Iman Manifesto says, I forgot about those scenes you mentioning. I mean, this is season 1. This is season 1. I'm talking about Tristan Wilds. I know the actor's name. He's the light-skinned guy who's getting beat up by the police damn near every episode. He's the guy that escaped from the boys' home when he got arrested for drugs. So, yeah. Oh, Kamal says Lieutenant Daniels. Yeah. How come Lieutenant Daniels is beating up on people that are handcuffed, man? I hate Lieutenant Daniels, bruh. I hate that RoboCop motherfucker, man. Okay, Wilds does not appeal until season 4. Okay, I think no. The guy, y'all are gonna make me look up the cast of The Wire. Cast of The Wire, man. Y'all gonna make me look it up. Okay, so fuck it. I pulled up the cast of The Wire. All right. So we have Omar Little is played by Michael Williams, of course. The person that I'm talking about. So Michael B. Jordan played Wallace. And where's Tristan Wilds? Tristan Wilds played Michael Lee. So I'm talking about the character Michael, who was a drug dealer, played by Tristan Wilds, and Michael B. Jordan played Wallace. Okay? And the crackhead Bubbles was played by Andre Royo. Don't get me started on Bubbles. Okay, don't get me started on that. But yeah, Lance Reddick played Cedric Daniels. Okay, now we got it open. Okay, anyway, I'm going to keep hate watching The Wire, and we're going to keep discussing it every now and then. But Imam Manifesto says he's forgotten those scenes I'm talking about. I think maybe some of y'all remember The Wire better than what it actually was. I think some of y'all watched The Wire when it came out 20 years ago. And because it was so like revolutionary, y'all just remember it great. But y'all got to revisit those albums, man. We remember Jay-Z's Volume 2 being dope until you listen to it in 2026 years and you're like, oh, brother, I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's the thing. We got to watch The Wire in 2026 eyes. So I'm kind of glad I'm watching it at this advanced stage. Okay, so Imam Manifesto says The Wire focuses on different facets of the system in each season: news, reporter, politicians, cops, street dealers. I just want to see the story about the streets. I'm going to keep it real. Maybe the story also about the politicians, because those are criminals too. But I do not watch cop shows, bro. And season 1 is just a straight cop show. Anyway, we're going to read here. AIDS and Poverty. This is from Workers' World Editorial, December 13th, 2001. More than 2 decades into the AIDS pandemic, with more than 20 million people's lives having been lost worldwide, and the disease spreading most rapidly wherever there is deep poverty and social instability. The countries hit hardest are in Africa. Why then did some of the U.S. media choose the occasion of World AIDS Day to focus in on the government of South Africa as the villain in the epidemic and accuse the people of the country of being promiscuous, irresponsible, sexually predatory, and uninformed? That was the message of features, articles in many prominent U.S. newspapers. That was the message of feature articles in many prominent U.S. newspapers. This is a classic case of shifting the burden of guilt from those who are ultimately responsible for the toll that AIDS is taking in South Africa onto the backs of its victims. The pharmaceutical giants bear direct blame for pricing AIDS drugs out of the reach of most African workers and poor. In fact, United Nations figures show that antiretroviral therapy alone would cost countries like Bangladesh, Nigeria, Uganda, and Zambia roughly 30% of their respective gross national products. But the drug companies have not acted alone. The government in Washington has been their closest ally. When the South African government tried to make cheaper generic AIDS drugs in an attempt to save many lives, the drug companies dragged its officials into court and let no one forget that it was Democrat Al Gore, chair of the United States South Africa Binational Commission, who acted as point person for these greedy imperialist Goliaths. Only after a worldwide outcry did the U.S. government and the pharmaceuticals relent somewhat and allow South Africa to import cheaper generic drugs from India. These pharmaceuticals are part of the class-driven economic system that has ravaged the African continent and helped lay the basis for a public health crisis that hits people with AIDS the hardest. This is insane. This is insane. Can you imagine being in South Africa and there are cheap drugs to help fight AIDS, but the U.S. government puts essentially a blockade, a sanction on your country for trying to import cheap drugs to deal with AIDS? For anybody out there who likes to say that, Africa should take care of itself. Oh, you can't be blaming the white man. You can't be blaming the U.S. for everything. What are we supposed to say when U.S. companies have so much sway over the pharmaceutical industry and foreign policy that drugs can be blocked from going into Africa to fight against a disease like AIDS? Does that make sense? Is that fair? Is that right? Is this what y'all believe in? Is this what you believe? That capitalism and U.S. imperialism are a natural good in the world, to the point that you will sort of swallow and accept that a country more powerful than any other in the world, the United States, should be able to tell African countries which drugs they can import into their countries to fight against a deadly epidemic called AIDS. That's sick. That's absolutely sick and wicked. There's a special place in hell. There's a special place in hell for anybody in the pharmaceutical industry who thought that that was okay. Luigi Mangione did nothing wrong. Luigi Mangione did nothing wrong. Luigi Mangione did nothing wrong. Going here to Kamal. All right. He's talking about The Wire. I'll talk about The Wire more after I finish this article right here. These pharmaceuticals are a part of the class-driven economic system that has ravaged the African continent and helped lay the basis for a public health crisis that hits people with AIDS the hardest. Essential for the health of all individuals, especially people with AIDS, is access to clean water and good nutrition. Yet 50% of the people in sub-Saharan Africa do not have clean water, and 32% of children under 5 years old are malnourished. How can they afford AIDS medications or even condoms? This poverty is not universal, even though apartheid has ended and the African National Congress presides over the government. Privileged whites still own 87% of the land in South Africa. The same bankers, mine owners, and industrialists still control the reins of the economy. For decades, South African miners have been forced to live in hostels far from their families while they dig out the precious gold and diamonds. These are then ostentatiously displayed in ads in the same magazines and newspapers here that accuse the men of that country of not displaying appropriate family values. Colonialism, apartheid, and now economic subjugation to U.S. imperialism have resulted in a system of low wages and intense exploitation. These combined conditions make it very difficult for the South African government to meet the needs of the masses of workers and the poor. Put the burden of guilt back where it belongs on the poverty resulting from more than a century of oppression. Racist articles like those in the U.S. press add vicious insult to injury. The banks and corporations that have grown rich off African labor and resources owe a massive debt of reparations to South Africa and its sister countries. Imagine how much easier it would be to deal with a public health crisis if that obligation were paid in full. That's not likely to happen without revolutionary changes here and in Africa. But that would be subversive of Bush's New World Order, wouldn't it? Very powerful. Very powerful right here. Let's go to Kamal in the live stream. He says, no, comrade, you've been talking about J.D. Williams as Bodie. Juvie escape police beatings. I'm talking about Tristan Wilde's character, Michael Lee. Is his name also Bodie? His nickname has to be Bodie. Anyway. All right. Kamal says, I would turn him loose too. Free Luigi Mangione. Free Luigi Mangione. He did nothing wrong. Free Luigi Mangione. For real. For real. Everybody should be screaming from the rooftops. Free Luigi Mangione. Because not only was that company, the CEO, he murked from that company. Allegedly, because I believe Luigi is innocent. He was framed. Luigi was innocent. He was framed. Not only have the American pharmaceutical and the healthcare insurance industry in general been behind the deaths of millions of Americans by denying them coverage and care, but they've also allowed for the deaths of millions of people in the global South by saying that they cannot export cheaper drugs from places like Cuba. You get what I'm saying? They'd rather have a monopoly on expensive drugs and force other countries to buy them rather than getting cheaper ones from countries like Cuba, which not only offer free or cheap drugs, but also will send doctors to their countries. America is a sick, wicked, evil country. Evil as it is. Just pure wickedness and evil. God damn. I could not imagine owning a company that sells drugs and seeing a sick person over there and forcing that sick person who has no money or is very poor to say, you have to buy the expensive drugs from me instead of the cheap drugs or free drugs from somewhere else. I cannot imagine thinking like that. But that's what happens when profit motive enters your mentality. Okay? Iman Manifesto says they have the values of Nene. Iman, didn't you ban Nene? Didn't you put her in timeout or ban her entirely? Why are you still obsessed with her? You blocked her. You could have been flirting with your boo in the chat some more. I don't know why you banned her. I don't know. It looked like y'all were having some nice banter. Anyway. All right. Kamal says, no, Mac Wilds does not appear before season 4. I know, I'm not talking about Mac Wilds. I'm talking about his brother, Tristan. Tristan plays Michael. Tristan Wilds plays Michael. I corrected myself earlier. If I said Mac Wilds, I'm sorry for confusing you. Okay? All right. We have to send some people out of here to the gulag. Be gone forever. Anyway, let's go here to another article. U.S. capitalism puts oppressed nations and the poor behind bars. This was written by Monica Moorehead. This is from the pamphlet Mumia Speaks, published on August 2000. On November 14th, 1998, a conference on wrongful convictions and the death penalty was held in Illinois. The conference was a stunning affirmation that the so-called justice system in the United States is completely awry. 28 women and men of all nationalities testified. They all had been on death row in different parts of the country. They came together to tell their horror stories. Each had been wrongfully wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death. Only through the pressure of volunteers, family members, and independent research outside the justice system were they able to win their freedom. Most of their cases have been fought before President Clinton signed the 1996 Effective Death Penalty Act. This new law makes overturning death sentences even harder. Under it, most of those at the conference might have already been executed. Every single time we read this book, they give us more and more reasons to hate Bill Clinton. What type of wicked person do you have to be to make it harder for somebody to grant clemency to somebody? A person is going to be executed. And in the United States, generally, the governors have the ability to, stay somebody's execution, give them life in prison instead. And we know for a fact there have been hundreds of innocent people killed by states in America through the death penalty, and also through the federal death penalty as well, totaling altogether to hundreds of people, okay, who have been proven to be innocent, okay, and look that up. Why would you make it harder for people to be able to say, we don't want to kill this person in the state of Missouri or Florida or Texas? Why would you do that? What type of sick person? Clinton he's a bastard, a full-on bastard. And there's a special place in hell for Clinton. You get what I'm saying? God damn. Anyway, on February 4th, 1999, 4 plainclothes cops in the borough of the Bronx in New York attacked a young African immigrant in the vestibule of his home. They fired 41 shots. 19 hit Amadou Diallo of Guinea, killing him instantly. Diallo was unarmed, completely innocent of any crime, and had only a wallet in his pants. The cops said they thought his wallet was a gun. On February 25th, 2000, all 4 cops were acquitted of any crime. In February 2000, the prison population in the United States, which was under 300,000 in the early 1970s, reached 2 million inmates. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill Clinton. We appreciate that. Yeah, 2 million inmates. 2 million. Tristan and Mack Wilds are the same person. God damn it, I'm dumb. All right, come on, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm sorry. Commentary on the wire after this article. Mack Wilds is his artist name. I'm so dumb. Anyway, the U.S. establishment has expanded the repressive state apparatus over the past few decades in 3 main areas: capital punishment, police aggressiveness, and by establishing what has been called the prison industrial complex. This growing repression has aroused resistance. Thousands of people defied police to take the streets of New York to protest the Diallo verdict. Hundreds more in Washington and San Francisco took civil disobedience arrests to demand a new trial for death row inmate and political prisoner Mumia Abu-Jamal. Meanwhile, a movement was gaining momentum around the country to declare a moratorium on executions. Racism and fascism. The expansion of police powers can't be separated from the ruling class ideology of racism. Right-wing politicians made law and order a major electoral issue, with being tough on crime, meaning virtually the same as being hard on the black community. Shout out to Imam Manifesto. He says, I forgot about Mack Wilds' short-lived career. He had a cool song called I Own It, I believe. And back when I was rapping a few years ago, I freestyled over one of his beats, and it went like viral on SoundCloud, or mini viral. It's like one of my bigger freestyles. So I actually like some of his music. I'm going to keep it real. But I thought that was his brother. Anyway. So while the pressure has been from the right-wing racists, both Republican and Democratic administrations have approved this increased repression. These officials took funds from education and other social benefits and transferred it to the police and the prisons. Both far-right and centrist capitalist politicians, and even those considered political liberals, have encouraged this development. The U.S. ruling class of billionaires and bankers have given full backing to the increase in prisons. It has become the accepted plant for controlling the masses of the people at a time when the gap between rich and poor grows ever wider in this country and in the world. It is in place It is in place in anticipation of wider revolt when the current capitalist expansion gives way to collapse. The U.S. rulers grew rich by exploiting enslaved labor and pillaging native land. Racism was the ideology used in an attempt to justify these thefts. It is thus no surprise that the communities of color, African American, Latino, Native, and Asian, bear the brunt of the vicious police attacks and the weight of the prison walls. Repression in the U.S. seems to have little in common with the classical fascism. There is not devastating economic crisis. There are no extra-legal Nazi stormtroopers, and even the Ku Klux Klan, the U.S. equivalent of the Nazi gangs, seems to play a minor role today. Instead, police and courts carry out the repression under the cover of bourgeois legality. But in communities of color, the police operate like a fascist gang, like on The Wire. They are the occupying army of an internal colony, like in The Wire. And the prisons are concentration camps for the poor and oppressed, like I assume will be displayed in The Wire. Bourgeois democracy is but a form of capitalist rule. After all is said and done, capitalist democracy serves the rich and the super rich. The explosion of the prison industrial complex exposes the utter bankruptcy of bourgeois democracy and the deepening repression that it heaps upon the poor, especially people of color. The facts speak for themselves. At the end of February 2000, two black Texas death row inmates, Ponchai Kamal Wilkerson and Howard Guidry, took a guard hostage for 13 hours. They were justified in their action. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain by carrying out this heroic act. Took a CO hostage. I love it. Kamal was an articulate 28-year-old man who was a Secretary of Defense of Panthers United for Revolutionary Education, an organization of Texas death row prisoners who studied Marxism and revolution. What were the main demands of these two men? First, to have an independent investigation into inhumane living conditions on death row. The other was for Texas Governor George W. Bush to issue a moratorium on executions in Texas. Salute to those brothers. I got to look into that story. That's a gangster story. Ponchai Kamal Wilkerson and Howard Guidry taking a guard hostage to demand an end to inhumane treatment behind Texas bars and an end to executions in the state of Texas, the state that has executed the most people in U.S. history. Despite mobilizations across the country and in Texas itself, and while courageously fighting tooth and nail to the last minute, Ponchai Kamal was executed on March 14th, 2000. Rest in peace to that brother. All right. Iman Manifesto says, I got to hear that freestyle, Simon. Go on SoundCloud or go to my other YouTube channel, Top Billion CMG, and just look for the mixtape, what's it called? King of Hearts. And on that mixtape I made many, many years ago, like over 10 years ago, I'm freestyling over a lot of R&B beats, and one of those beats was Mac Wild's I Own It. It's actually dope. I like that song. Let's go here to Kamal in the live stream, horizontal. He says, except Georgia, where only the Board of Pardons instead of the governor can stay executions, where they murdered Troy Davis. I'll never forget, I got into a big fight with a girlfriend I had in university when Troy Davis was executed. And I believe Troy Davis's execution happened alongside the Trayvon Martin case as well. Like, both happened around similar times. And her and I got into a big fight because she was raccooning at the time. And she was saying, well, black people just need to, just stop being violent and stop committing crimes. And I remember just smashing everything on her desk. You know how they in the movies, people when they're mad, they just swipe a desk with both hands. I remember doing that to her because I was like, what the fuck you mean? That's an innocent man about to be executed by the state, and a young man who was murdered by some guy who just thought he looked like a criminal. You get what I'm saying? So I'll never forget, the Troy Davis case for real, because That was one of those that radicalized me. That was one of those moments that radicalized me. All right. All right. Big Bread. Big Bread looks like a person that I have sent to the gulag before. He makes a comment, says everyone has slaves as ancestors, so if we don't get all reparations, nobody gets them. The difference is that the Roman Empire no longer exists. The Ottoman Empire no longer exists. Whatever empire or imperial state where your ancestors were enslaved no longer exists. For example, there were many black people who were enslaved by Native American tribes who were recognized as nations by the United States government. Many of those Native American tribes that were once considered nations by the United States no longer exist. So our reparations claim cannot go against a state that no longer exists. The United States government still exists, and it directly benefited from slavery and supported slavery. The French government still exists, and it was directly involved in the slave trade and the benefits of slavery. Same thing with Spain, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and many other countries, all throughout the Americas. There are reparations claimed to be made because those states still exist. We cannot chase ghosts. I don't know why this argument continues to come up, because it's a really stupid one. It's a really stupid one. It's like saying we're going to charge a dead man with murder. Let's say we found out Al Capone killed somebody 100 years ago. Can we charge Al Capone now? Can we take him to a court of law? No. But let's say that, Domenico Cefalu, the current head of the Gambino crime family, killed somebody, and, he was involved in Hoffa disappearing. Okay? He was involved in Hoffa disappearing. All right. So Reinstoffer says, what about the Union soldiers and their descendants who fought against slavery? Number one, the Union did not fight to end slavery. The Union fought to preserve the Union. Abolishing slavery was a second thought. Abraham Lincoln said explicitly that if I could keep the Union without freeing a single slave, I would. Okay? Freeing the slaves was a tactic he used to recruit more black men to join the Union Army. He freed all the slaves in the Confederacy and did not free the slaves who were still in Maryland and still in other parts of the Union that were not rebelling. So that's one thing. He wanted to incite a slave rebellion in the South. And the second thing is that Union soldiers did get their pensions. I know a lot of you are very stupid. Renee Stauffer is one of them. If you fight in the army, and especially if you're wounded, you get a pension for life. So those people were able to accumulate wealth because of their fighting in the Union Army. Meanwhile, the people who were enslaved got nothing. Okay? And also, the former enslavers, some of them were given reparations for their slaves being liberated because apparently their property was expropriated. So that's one thing as well. The U.S. government paid out reparations to some slaveholders. And on top of that, if you rebelled against the Union, even though in the United States Constitution, one of the few punishments is that treason and sedition are executable offenses. One of the few punishments that are put in the United States Constitution, which a lot of you right-wingers don't read, instead of executing Jefferson Davis and also executing many of the Confederates who dared to raise arms against the United States government. They were let back in government. They were granted amnesty, and they were allowed to just continue to live their lives and spread their racist propaganda that we now have to deal with today. So Renee Stauffer, you are very stupid. Anybody who thinks like you is very fucking stupid, and you haven't even read a single history book. Okay? So let's go here. Kamal says, Kamal says around 2012, and even Judge Mathis aired a piece from his bench about that gross miscarriage of justice. Okay, I love how my guy Kamal just loves Judge Mathis. I feel like he jumps in every live stream. Is like, Judge Mathis said this. He's one of the he's a pro Judge Mathis commentator. I I just grew up seeing Judge Mathis and Judge Joe Brown on TV, doing like court cases and stuff. And I haven't paid attention to them much since. But Kamal is like, yeah, man, Judge Mathis, he a real one. Okay, I guess. All right. So, and Amon Manifesto brings up a good point. Harriet didn't get her pension. She had to fight for it. She had to fight for it. That's another good point. So a lot of the white Union soldiers got pensions. And also, even more crazy, some of the Confederate soldiers who fought against the United States got pensions. But the slaves, who not only fought for their own freedom, but were also exploited labor for all their lives, got nothing. Got nothing. So I don't want to hear like there's a reparations claim for the white soldiers. Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm going to continue here to the death penalty. And Amani Manifesto brings up another good point. They didn't even want to pay the colored troops who fought for their own freedom. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? All right. By the way, we're almost finished with today's live stream. We have a few more pages to go. I would say about 20 more pages. There's a lot more pages, I guess. This is the longest chapter here. Damn, there's quite a few. There's quite a few. Okay, so we're going to be on live for another hour or so because I want to finish up this chapter because the last chapter is very long. Okay? All right. ZVY4D1 says pay. Okay, you're just up in here, just clueless. Up in the Kool-Aid and don't know the flavor. Don't know the flavor. All right, let's go back to our section on the death penalty. Okay? All right, quick water break. All right, jump in here. So there are 3,600 people awaiting execution in the United States. The state of Texas is second only to California with over 460 people on death row, but is executing more people at a faster rate, sometimes 3 or 4 people a week. Bush has presided over 123 executions in 6 years, earning him the nickname Governor Death. In 1972, following 5 years without executions, the Supreme Court ruled capital punishment unconstitutional. This victory followed the upsurge of the civil rights movement. But in 1977, the High Court reinstated the death penalty, despite arguments that it was only cruel and unusual punishment, but was racially biased. So the High Court reinstated the death penalty despite arguments that it was not only cruel and unusual punishment, but was racially biased. At first, the rate of executions was slow. The first inmate executed even said publicly that he wanted to die. But then the executions gathered momentum until in the late 1990s, about 100 years were being officially murdered. But then the executions gathered momentum until in the late 1990s, about 100 years were being officially murdered. About 100 a year, sorry. So 100 people a year were being officially murdered. Okay, now I'm reading it again just to get it right. All right, the executions gathered momentum until in the late 1990s. About 100 people a year were being officially murdered. Okay, so until the late 1990s, every year the United States executed 100 people on death row. Wow. Okay, so Kamal says, yeah, I've been following Judge Mathis since freshman year when he launched. Okay, hey, if Judge Mathis is your cup of tea, let it be. Okay. All right. Let's go here. So In June 1998, the Death Penalty Information Center published a study on the racist character of the death penalty. A white person charged with murder is more likely to get life in prison than the death penalty. The DPIC states race is more likely to affect death sentencing than smoking affects the likelihood of dying from heart disease. Damn. The report revealed that in Philadelphia, for example, the odds of receiving a death sentence are nearly 4 times higher if the defendant is black. In courtrooms around the country, contemptible racial slurs abound and go unchallenged. Many racist remarks are made in front of juries by judges and lawyers, including by the defendant's lawyers. One DPIC illustration: when a prosecutor refers to a Hispanic defendant as a chili-eating bastard, as happened in Colorado death penalty cases, it sets a tone of acceptance of racial prejudice for the entire trial. Acts like the following are common. A prosecutor in Alabama said that he barred several potential jurors because they were affiliated with a predominantly black university. A reviewing court considered this race neutral. I don't care what a person does. Everybody deserves a fair trial. And the use of racism in a courtroom by people that we presume to be educated and sophisticated, defense attorneys, prosecutors, judges, witnesses in general, should not be allowed. If a slur is used in the courtroom by one of these people, or racial innuendo is used by one of these people, I would argue the entire case should be thrown out. That's a mistrial in my book. Okay? So, continuing here. In Philadelphia, Assistant District Attorney Jack McMahon used a training video for new prosecutors, instructing them on how to exclude black jurors. In 16 of McMahon's cases, black jurors were struck from the jury 4 times as often as others. McMahon has prosecuted 36 murder cases. Some of those defendants are on death row today. The race of the murder victim is predetermined or predeterminate of the death penalty. Black people and Latinos are more likely to go to death row if accused of killing whites. In Kentucky, for example, 100% of the inmates in 1996 were on death row for allegedly killing white victims. None was there for the murder of a black victim. According to the DPIC, in the entire history of the United States, only 38 whites have been executed for murdering black people. Some groups are for abolition of capital punishment because of the barbarity of the practice. Some give priority to combating its racist bias. For communists, it's also a class issue in a capitalist country like the United States. The capitalists uphold the death penalty because they will use anything at their disposal to intimidate the working class. Their aim is to maintain rule, and the death penalty serves their aim by deepening and broadening repression. As long as the death penalty is a tool of the capitalist class against the workers, the working class movement must oppose it. After years of struggle by the families, friends, and supporters of death row prisoners to abolish the inhuman and racist system of executions, huge cracks have appeared in what was a ruling class united front for the death penalty. A moratorium on executions issued by Illinois Governor George Ryan on January 31st, 2000, has given renewed hope to the national campaign to end the death penalty. The governor was forced to take the action after a 13th death row prisoner was exonerated. 12 people have been executed in the state since 1990. Ryan, who earlier championed the death penalty, now says he can no longer defend the system. Following his decision, activist groups have moved other legislatures to consider declaring a moratorium in their states. What did we learn when we read Lenin's The State and Revolution? For anybody who's been on this channel, you know we read The State and Revolution. I believe it was Book React 19 or 20. What did we learn? The state exists for one class to oppress another. Now, we want to create the worker state, where, by definition, the working class will oppress the bourgeoisie. Should we still have the death penalty in a worker state? I would argue no, because the bourgeoisie is a small minority of people. And the workers are a vast majority of people. The bourgeoisie, in their current system right now, want to terrify a vast amount of people with threats of the death penalty, life in prison, football numbers going to the prison system. I think if the worker state exists, we don't have to do the same thing for those, who commit heinous crimes. Of course, in a socialist society, we will still have, unfortunately, pedophiles. We'll have murderers. We'll have rapists. We'll have terrorists. Just because socialism or communism will exist when the worker seize control of the state doesn't mean that crime will no longer exist. But I would argue that the workers' state should do more to try to reform and rehabilitate people rather than to recreate the draconian measures the capitalist class used to maintain their hegemony. You get what I'm saying? So very important. Very, very important for us to take into account. But what do you all think? What do you all think? Should the death penalty exist in the workers' state? I would argue no. All right. So DMR says, who cares about murderers getting or not getting the death penalty? DMR, I hope that you are never falsely convicted of murder and face the death penalty, like so many people in America have had happen to them. There are innocent people who have been murdered by the United States government and the states within the United States because of false accusations. Okay? So, let's continue here. This is a positive development revolutionaries and Marxists welcome. Right now, the struggle to win a moratorium on executions appears to be taking place within the electoral arena. The struggle to win a moratorium to temporarily put a halt to the death machine should become a grassroots issue. But even if this struggle has to begin from the top, it does provide activists with an opening for struggle. One reason for this debate is the growing concern among capitalist politicians and think tanks over the U.S. image. This country has the most people in prison and an alarming rate of poor people, especially people of color, being executed. Police brutality and killer cops. Police brutality is an institution that is as widespread and deeply rooted in capitalist society as exploitation itself. Indeed, exploitation cannot be maintained without police. And wherever there are police, there is racism and brutality. When cases such as those of Amadou Diallo, Abner Louima, or Rodney King break into the headlines because police have been caught in the act red-handed, the capitalist establishment feigns outrage and shock. But this is strictly for the benefit of the public. Year after year, the bosses dish out hefty salaries, large budgets, and high honors to police chiefs and commanders across the country. These chiefs and commanders, in turn, administer and cover up for the armies of cops in every municipality and township, large and small, that brutalize the oppressed peoples and the working class on a daily basis. A recent Human Rights Watch report, Shielded from Justice, Police Brutality and Accountability in the United States, focused on police brutality in a sample of 14 cities. This relatively modest study compiled enough information on police brutality to lead to massive criminal prosecutions of cops at all levels. That is, it would have if the establishment had the least interest in abolishing police brutality instead of covering it up. For example, the U.S. government, always on the lookout for so-called human rights violations by governments that Washington is trying to undermine or overthrow, could have started the search in any city in the U.S. A look at a few of the biggest cities involved gives the picture. So, going to the comments here, Kamal says, capital punishment means those without capital get the punishment. That's a fire quote. Where's that quote from? Dr. Herbert Douglas, Rowan University. Facts, facts, facts. That's a very good quote. Shout out to Dr. Douglas for giving us that fire quote. So, once again, what do you all think about capital punishment in the workers' state? If I were on the Politburo or the Commission of the Socialist States of America, I would vote against. I will vote against instituting the death penalty in the socialist workers' state. So, torture in Chicago. In Chicago, 65 incidents of police torture were documented between the years of 1972 and 1991. They included the use of electric shock applied to suspects' genitals and other parts of their bodies, burning a suspect on a hot radiator, and psychological torture techniques by and under the supervision of a commander, John Bungie. No one was ever prosecuted. Some of the cops who took part in the torture were retired with full benefits. Another was recommended for valor by the mayor and promoted to captain from lieutenant. In 1996, there were 3,000 complaints against the Chicago police, mostly by Black and Latino residents, for brutality, racist treatment, and abuse of authority. In only 6 cases did the authorities even consider dismissing the cops, and then no one was dismissed. In Los Angeles, according to HRW, Human Rights Watch, the videotaped beating of Rodney King exemplified so much that was, and in some cases still is, wrong with the LAPD. Many of the components of the King incident are common to less publicized abuse cases. There was the obvious race factor. The beating followed a vehicle pursuit, and once stopped, the defendant was not considered compliant enough, a common scenario in police beating. When the man who videotaped the beating and King's brother attempted to report the incident, they were turned away or ignored. Inaccurate reports were filed by the police. I think the most ironic part of the Rodney King beating is that the videotaper of Rodney King's famous beating was from Argentina. One of the most blatantly racist examples of white supremacy and police violence in American history was filmed by some racist Argentines. Let's keep it a buck. The people from probably the most anti-Black country in Latin America, Argentina, helped us reveal how openly white supremacist and anti-Black the LAPD was. If I remember right, I do remember they were immigrants. Look for me. Somebody look it up. Who were the videotapers of the video of Rodney King? If I remember right, they were from Argentina. They were from Argentina. If I remember right. Yeah, I'm not going to look it up, but y'all look it up. All right? All right. I was going to read that comment from Harvey Lee, but it got retracted. I don't know why somebody would leave a comment and then delete their own comment. That gives me more evidence that most of you are not real people. You are small Pakistani children just tweeting. All you got to do is tweet and get paid for the day. All right, anyway. 3 out of the 4 officers eventually indicted had been named in prior complaints. In fact, it is likely that if this incident had not been videotaped and broadcast widely, any complaint about the beating would not have been sustained, since the sustained rate for complaints was about 2%. According to Human Rights Watch reports, Black people and Latinos are still routinely proned out, that is, made to lie face down with their arms and legs spread, just for walking the streets or driving in their vehicles. The vicious canine dogs trained to bite are still used to terrorize people. Many of the killer cops identified with the Christopher Commission after the Los Angeles Rebellion are not only still on the force, but 2 have shot and killed people since. Chief Parks ignored the commission's mild recommendation. In New York City in 1992, Mayor David Dinkins appointed the Mullen Commission to investigate corruption in the NYPD after cops in the 30th, 9th, 46th, 75th, and 73rd precincts were caught selling drugs and beating people to keep them from talking. Shout out to Mayor David Dinkins, the first Democratic Socialist to be the mayor of New York City. I just found that out recently. Zoran was not the first Democratic Socialist of America to be the mayor of New York City. It was the first Black mayor of New York City, which is David Dinkins. Shout out to him. And rest in peace to him. I think he passed away. Anyway, what emerged, wrote the Human Rights Watch report, was a picture of how everyday brutality corrupted relations among police officers and city residents. The Molen Commission heard from officers who admitted pouring ammonia on the face of a detainee, from another who threw garbage and boiling water on someone hiding in a dumb waiter shaft. Another doctored an escape rope used by drug dealers so they would plunge to the ground. And the same group also raided a brothel while in uniform and terrorized and raped the women there. Damn, the police were out of control. Molen found brutality sometimes serves as a rite of passage to other forms of corruption and misconduct. Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, like chief parks in Los Angeles, disregarded the mild measures of oversight recommended by the Molen Commission. These recommendations are never mandatory, legally binding, but are basically window dressing. Since then in New York, Abner Louima has been tortured. Amadou Diallo was shot down in a hail of 41 bullets, and Anthony Baez was choked to death. These are just the most notorious of the cops' crimes. Philadelphia's police, reported HRW, are grappling with the latest of the corruption scandals that have earned them Philadelphia's police have earned one of the worst reputations of big city police departments in the United States. There is an undisturbed culture of impunity that surfaces and is renewed with each successive scandal, as each new generation of police officers is taught through example that their leadership accepts corruption and excessive force. So going here to Kamal, he says, wow, that is some shit, the way they eradicated black culture in Argentina. Yes. Somebody look it up, man. Tell me the names of the people that videotaped Rodney King's beating, because I'm pretty sure they were Argentinian. They were either Argentinian or Armenian. It's one of those countries with an A, if I remember right. They were immigrants. And so for all the people out there, who say, immigrants are not allies to black people, there were definitely some immigrants who did, some brave shit by videotaping Rodney King's beating and then leaking it to the media. Is that not allyship? You get what I'm saying? That is allyship because it documented the abuse of LAPD against black people. So, yeah, take that for what you will. Shout out to Sizzle Moon Gang, who says like and subscribe. I hope all of you like and subscribe and help, this channel grow. I don't do this to get famous. I don't do this to make money. I just do this to educate myself, chill with some cool people, learn and grow, document my life. That's it. Continuing here. As a result, police officers have unlawfully injured and killed citizens. The city has paid enormous sums in settlements and awards, and many minority communities are distrustful of police officers who too often act like criminals. The shortcomings of the department are reinforced by a police union that tirelessly defends officers accused of human rights violation. This is the police force that made the case against Mumia Abu-Jamal and made sure no one would testify in his behalf at his trial. The HRW, or Human Rights Watch report, has similar reports about liberal San Francisco and smaller cities like New Orleans, Minneapolis, Providence, Rhode Island, Portland, Oregon, and others. It leaves out some of the even more notorious police departments in the South and Southwest, such as Houston, Phoenix, Dallas, or Birmingham. It leaves out Louisville, Kentucky, where the police in March 2000 attempted a fascist-like revolt against a mayor who fired the police chief. But the picture painted is sufficiently clear to issue an indictment against the entire police department, the politicians who appoint them and cover up for them, and the ruling class that promotes the system of police terror against the population. It is absolutely naive to regard this virtually universal existence of police brutality as something out of control, something that has escaped the supervision of the authorities as a result, or looking at it, a result of poor administration. The art of administration has been brought to its highest pinnacle of development by U.S. capitalism. Wall Street and the Fortune 500 can administer global empires that stagger the imagination. They can summon armies of efficiency experts at a moment's notice when it comes to downsizing the workforce or merging giant monopolies. If the ruling class were so inclined, it could wipe out police brutality. These bosses and bankers, the millionaires and billionaires, control the arteries of political and economic life, the big business parties, and the state and local governments throughout the country. But the very idea they will put a stop to the intimidation and terror practiced against the workers and the oppressed is like expecting them to voluntarily cut off their right hand. The cops are there to make sure that during this great Wall Street boom, there is no rebellion by the masses of people. The workers' wages are getting relatively lower. Their working hours are getting longer and longer, and they are forced to give up social services like healthcare, welfare, childcare, education, and housing to serve the balanced budget of the bond holders, the military-industrial complex, and the Pentagon. The cops are there to feed the prison industrial complex with Black and Latino youths who can't get jobs on the outside, but are forced to work as wage slaves on the inside. It is impossible to regard the phenomenon of police brutality as anything other than a systematic policy of the ruling class to intimidate by force and violence the millions of oppressed people, both in and out of the workforce. As such, it must be opposed by an equally systematic organization of the masses into a powerful force that can defend itself against the terror. Commissions, review boards, government investigations of every kind always leave the same parasitic and brutal structure intact after all the publicity is over. The communities, the unions, the movements are still left to face the cops. The working class and community organizations must ultimately organize to defend themselves against these cowardly hired thugs of capitalism. Facts. I got hyped up on that part because, I'm sick of just hearing every few years, innocent black boy murdered. It goes to trial, and maybe the cop or maybe the civilian who murdered that black boy goes to jail or doesn't. But then what happens? The city just pays $10 million to the family in restitution for a wrongful death suit. I'm sick of hearing these stories. I don't want them to happen anymore. We need a workers' movement, local community organizations, and general strikes to finally bring down this wicked, imperialistic, decadent society where black life is worth nothing. It's worth nothing. Okay? So, continuing here, we have to send Persian version back to Iran. Hopefully he gets a U.S. bomb on his head. Oh, let's go here to the prison industrial complex. The United States has only 5% of the world's population, but has 25% of the world's incarcerated. That amounts to 2 million people. This number includes 130,000 in federal prisons, about 1.2 million in state prisons, and almost 700,000 in city and county jails, where people are held for short terms or are awaiting trial. An unknown number of people are under house arrest, confined by means of electronic monitoring devices. In Texas alone, since George W. Bush became governor in 1994, the prison population increased from 41,000 to 150,000. These convictions came about mainly for drug possession. The irony is that it's an open secret that Bush himself is a former drug user. 60% of those in federal prisons are drug offenders with no history of committing violent acts, while 60% to 80% of all prisoners have a substance addiction. Only 1 out of 10 inmates receives any kind of drug treatment in prison. In addition, 70% of the prisoners in the U.S. are functionally illiterate. Shout out to Petrina Adube 22098, who says, really? To the topic of George W. Bush being a former drug user. Yes, it's an open secret to the point that it was in the George W. Bush mockumentary made by Oliver Stone. I believe it was called W. Or it was the movie about Dick Cheney. I forgot which one. I watched both of them. But there's a movie about George W. Bush. I believe it was done by Oliver Stone. And in that movie, they show that George W. Bush was an alcoholic who would drink and drive, a cocaine user, a fail son who just failed upwards, stuff like that. So, yeah. All right, we're going to get the Pakistani bots out of here. Okay, no Pakistani bots, no trolls, only people who are talking about the topic. If you're not talking about the topic, you will be instantly sent to the gulag. Continuing here. In a July 1999 report, the Justice Department estimated that some 16% of prisoners are mentally ill. This makes over 300,000 inmates of the country's federal and state prisons and local jails who either had a history of mental disease or had stayed overnight in mental hospitals at some time in their lives. An additional 547,800 mentally ill people are on probation in the community. So the so-called criminal justice system has major responsibility in providing or in criminally neglecting to provide mental health care for close to 1 million people. The Justice Policy Institute report entitled The Punishing Decade, Prison and Jail Estimates of the Millennium includes the latest numbers and trends in incarceration from the U.S. Justice Department. The JPI report illustrates how the U.S. prison population grew at a faster rate during the 1990s than during any other previous decade. By the end of the year 2000, there will be 2.7 million people behind bars. Looking now at subgroups, a federal study done by the General Accounting Office reports that there were twice as many women incarcerated during the 1990s as the decade before. This indicates an even faster growth than for the male prison population. Most of these women are serving time for what are called nonviolent drug crimes. These women prisoners suffer a higher rate of HIV infection and mental illness than imprisoned men. 84% of female federal inmates and 60% of female state inmates are mothers. Because of systematic racism, Black women are 8 times more likely to be incarcerated than white women. Latinas have a higher rate of incarceration as well, compared to the overall population. And more women prisoners are courageously coming forward to report that they are victims of sexual abuse and rape at the hands of male guards. Crazy, absolutely crazy. All right, once again, we have to send some people out here into the gulag and the re-education camp about the topic, class. We talk about the topic, not BS, okay? Bots, please be gone. Bots, please be gone. Continuing, prisons for profit. Prisons have little to do with crime prevention and everything to do with repression and exploitation. The prison industrial complex is an integral component of the globalization phenomenon of raking in super profits for Wall Street investors during this post-Soviet imperialist expansion era. This current boom comes about mainly with the privatization of prisons and the youth, primarily African American and Latino. They are the main targets. For instance, since 1991, while the rate of violent acts has decreased by 20%, the number of people in prison has increased by 50%, according to the U.S. Department of Justice 1997 statistics. Violent juvenile crime has declined by 9.3%, but the population of youthful juveniles in privately operated facilities has increased more than 10%. Even as prisons are privatized, the U.S. government is spending more money on jails than ever before. In 1996, Washington spent more money on prison construction than on university construction, almost $1 billion. This was the same year that President Bill Clinton signed away welfare. I also wonder if the author of this article is going to talk about how they took away programs in in prisons for people to get university degrees. Growing up, I remember hearing stories about people who were behind bars who ended up coming home with a bachelor's in psychology, a bachelor's in engineering, a bachelor's in, some field or form where they were able to do their studies while behind walls. But once again, the American government wants to try to keep their people stupid, in jail, and also poor. That's what they want to do. So even as prisons are privatized, the U.S. government is spending more money on jails than ever before. In 1996, Washington spent more money on prison construction than on university construction, almost $1 billion. This was the same year that President Bill Clinton signed away welfare. A study called The Color of Justice substantiated that within the California juvenile system, youths of color are twice as likely as white youths to be tried under the same rules as adults, which subjects them to harsher sentences. California has one of the biggest prison systems in the world, with more people incarcerated than Belgium, France, Great Britain, Germany, and Japan combined. Damn. The number of prisoners has grown from 19,600 in 1977 to over 160,000 at the end of 1998. California is also notorious for its law that sentences those convicted 3 times for a felony, that is, for a higher level crime, to an automatic life sentence with no hope of parole, the 3 strikes and out law. Okay, so shout out to John. He says Bemidji, Minnesota has denied business licenses but is building a second jail within city limits. Yes, that's a very good point. Once again, the United States government sees no problem in investing in more and more prisons, but tells us that there's no money for schools, no money for guaranteed jobs, no money for healthcare, no money for childcare. But like in Minnesota, they have more money magically falling from the sky for more prisons. Let's go here. So, California is also notorious for its law that sentences those convicted 3 times for a felony, that is, for a higher level crime, to an automatic life sentence with no hope of parole, the 3 strikes and out law. All right. Shout out to Bert, who says Trump is destroying America. Facts. But America had already been a failed state even before Trump came into office. Let's continue here. So study co-author Dan McAllister wrote, discrimination against kids of color accumulates at every stage of the justice system and skyrockets when juveniles are tried as adults. California has a double standard. Throw kids of color behind bars, but rehabilitate white kids who commit comparable crimes. Los Angeles County produces 40% of the juvenile court cases that make it to the adult courts. The study showed that of the 24,000 young people arrested there in 1996, 56% were Latino, 25% were Black, 12% were white, and 6% Asian. Of the 561 cases that made it to adult court, 59% were Latino, 30% Black, 6% Asian, and 5% white. Compared to whites, Black youths were 18.4 times more likely to be convicted. Latino youths were 7.3 times more likely, and Asian youths were 4.5 times more likely to be jailed. The study pointed out that in Texas, Black and Latino youths make up just 1/2 of the state's youth population, but they make up 80% of imprisoned adults. They make up 80% of imprisoned youths and 100% of juveniles housed in adult jails. That's sick. Absolutely sick. Anytime you read a statistic that says 100%, you know that's disparate. You know that's disparate. 100% of the youth sent to adult jails in Texas at that time that this article was written in about 2001 or 2. 100% of the youth sent to adult jails were Black or Latino. That's wrong. That's wrong. Okay. So we have to send some white supremacists out of here. All right. We have to send some trolls out of here as well. Okay. And who else? Yes, Bert says the MAGA cult is blind. Yes, I do not understand how people are still claiming MAGA in 2026. Okay. So continuing here. The disproportion is even more astounding, considering there are equivalent drug abuse problems in white communities and communities of color, and so much of the jailing is drug-related. Just from these statistics alone, we can see the role that racist repression plays in the social composition of who is incarcerated. But this still remains a political and social symptom of the crisis. It also has an economic basis that drives it forward. The bottom line is this. Under capitalism, investors and bankers will put their money into any sector of the economy, no matter how anti-human it may be, in order to maximize profits. This is not a matter of policy, but is based on the independent laws of capitalist development that drive big business to gravitate to wherever the rate of profit is the highest. So essentially, anybody out there who's pro-capitalist, you're pro-private prisons. You're pro-convict leasing. You're pro-exploiting labor, de facto slave labor. Think about that, man. Think about that. They'll say you can invest right now in the U.S. stock market. You can download Webull or Robinhood, and right now they allow you to invest in private prisons, where people have a financial incentive to lock people up. Think about that. Absolutely sick. Okay. So let's see here. Who has to go to the concentration camp? Okay. Not the concentration camp. Sorry, the gulag. Okay. Bert says, Flock, don't you get tired of defending the MAGA cult? Okay. All right. Let's go here. Let's send more people out of here. Oh, that was Nini. You know what? I'm gonna unblock Nini. Nini, you can come back around because you're funny. You're funny. All right. Let's send PJ out of here as well. More people gotta go. I don't know why you right-wingers come around here. Okay? And yeah, no self-promotion on this channel. No self-promotion. Don't come around here self-promoting. Talk about the book. This is an interesting book. It's an interesting topic here. All right, let's continue here. So the cost of prison construction has averaged annually for the past decade a staggering $7 billion a year. The U.S. government has spent more money on prisons than building universities. It costs $35 billion annually for incarceration. That figure is expected to rise to $41 billion by the end of 2000. If one counts all prison labor as working for the same firm, the prison industry is the second largest employer in the country, with 523,000 employees, second only to General Motors. Starbucks, Microsoft, Victoria's Secret, Best Western, and Boeing are examples of U.S. corporations that super exploit prison labor. World Research Groups, a New York-based investment firm, summed up the corporate takeover of correctional facilities this way. While arrests and convictions are steadily on the rise, profits are to be made. Profits from crime. Get in on the ground floor of this booming industry now. Absolutely sick and disgusting that a whole industry can rise up out of incarcerating children and adults. Absolutely sick. Absolutely sick. If the profit motive is there for people to be incarcerated, people will find more reasons to incarcerate people. It's that simple. And so that's why we're continuing to see a rise in the prison population in what's supposed to be the richest and most freest country in the world. We have billions of dollars to spend every single year on building prisons, but no money for the poor, no money for the homeless, no money for working class people. This is what capitalists defend. This is what maggots defend. This is what Trump supporters defend. Absolutely sick and disgusting. How anti-human. Absolutely insane. All right. So we have to send some people out of here. Okay. All right. All right. Shout out to Only Tribal who says, I'm amazing. Thank you. And yeah, we have to send more people out of here. Let's send some more people out of here. Okay. So continuing here. Prison, slave labor. Profits arise not just from prison construction or management, but also from prison labor. Between 1980 and 1994, the value of goods prisoners produced rose from $392 million to $1.1 billion. The Corrections Corporation of America, the country's largest private prison conglomerate, is a main factor. CCA operates 46 penal institutions in 11 states, including 7 juvenile facilities. Its stock value climbed from $8 a share in 1992 to $30 a share in 1997. One investment firm called CCA stock the theme stock of the 90s. Transnational corporations no longer have to shut down factories here and go abroad to set up sweatshop conditions, not with super cheap labor locked up right there in the next state. Competitive prison labor means a CCA prison in Tennessee can pay prisoners a maximum wage of 50 cents an hour. I want all you pro-capitalist people to come in here and tell me why paying a person behind bars 50 cents an hour for a non-violent drug crime who will be behind bars for many years is okay. Somebody, please explain to me why it's okay to lock up somebody for a non-violent crime, give them football numbers behind bars, and then say paying them 50 cents an hour to do labor for a multinational, multi-billion dollar earning company is okay. Tell me why slavery is okay. Somebody tell me why slavery is okay in America today. Why is this okay? All you pro-capitalist people, let me know why. Somebody tell me why. Okay? So, Nene says, don't go to jail. You know the consequences. What if the consequences for going to jail are protesting on behalf of what I believe to be my rights? As we see right now in America, the First Amendment is no longer protected. You could speak out against this president, do investigative journalism against some corruption within his administration, and then have them target you. There were some people in Texas who were recently sentenced to football numbers because they simply exercised their First Amendment right. So you're saying that I am wrong for exercising my right to speak out against corruption or whatever I don't like in the government. I go to jail, and so then I deserve to be a de facto slave. Make that make sense. Make that make sense to me. All right? So, President, oh God, some people have to go to the gulag. Okay. All right, Chad, you got to go. All right, Chad, I don't know if you have to go. All right, Nene says, now old weed charges you should not be in jail for. Well, the Republicans you support, Nene, just made it a felony to have weed in Texas. So what are you going to say about that? And Trump has no problems with locking up people for drugs. He's not pro-drugs. The president at any moment could decriminalize drugs or knock down their schedule on the rating system because he is the enforcer in chief, the top cop in the country. You get what I'm saying? So Sizzle Moonsong says, I'm so glad I blocked Nene hours ago. Yes, I don't know. Guys, should I block her? Should I block her? Should I block Nene from the chat? Okay. All right. So, Elon Tusk has got to go. Who else wants to go to the re-education camp? Yeah, a lot of y'all are really bad. Okay. All right. So I think we've done enough. I think we've done enough with the people in here. All right. So let's continue here. In Ohio, prisoners make car parts for Honda for $2 an hour, while the average wage for a unionized worker at Honda is $20 to $30 an hour. In Oregon, prisoners slave for $3 a day, no matter what the industry, and this slavery has been legalized. Trans World Airlines can pay prisoners $5 an hour to book reservations by phone, 1/3 of what it pays to its non-inmate workers. I know a lot of people are worried about AI. I know a lot of people are worried AI is going to take your jobs, but the capitalist class has already shown their hand that they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck if you lose your job, because guess what? They got slave labor in prison, not only doing manufacturing work like making car parts for Honda, but even doing the service jobs like booking a flight. Hello, welcome to booking.com. How can I help you today? Yes, I'd like to reserve a nice hotel in Honolulu for a few days. Sure, you're on a federal call with an inmate in an Ohio State penitentiary. What was that? Oh, never mind that, sir. I'm just behind bars right now doing my job. $3 a day, keeps the doctor away. They got Pop-Tarts in commissary now. If I work for 7 weeks, I might be able to buy one. That's sick. That's sick, man. Absolutely sick. Absolutely sick. We have to send some people out here. All right. So Tom G says it's the future slave trade. Absolutely insane. There's people right now that are okay with slavery. They're fine with slavery. That's who the MAGA Republicans are. Okay. That's who the MAGA Republicans are. They're okay with slavery. Okay with slavery. Okay. And Tom G says it's like all the politicians turn on the people. It's insane. Facts. Okay. $3 per day in prison is pure gold. You got to go. I hope you go to jail. In fact, you are in jail now. You are in the gulag. Now you will slave away. Continuing here. The multi-billion-dollar prison industry has now expanded to manufacture clothes, car parts, computer components, shoes, and golf balls. Starbucks, Microsoft, Victoria's Secret, Best Western, and Boeing are examples of U.S. corporations that super exploit prison labor. It was especially gratifying to see the youth in Seattle during the World Trade Organization meeting trashing Starbucks. Starbucks prison workers can't even afford to buy their coffee. I know a lot of people right now aren't going to Starbucks and McDonald's because it's forever BDS. It's always BDS, meaning that we are not supporting any organization or company that does business with the Zionist entity known as Israel, though it's not real. But we should have been boycotting McDonald's, Starbucks, Microsoft a long time ago for their use of prison slave labor. Wall Street is not alone in terms of making super profits off of prison labor. There is the Federal Prison Industries, Inc., a unit of the Justice Department, which employs 21,000 inmates in federal prisons. This corporation pays inmates anywhere between 23 cents to $1.15 an hour. Last year, FPI reported $540 million in sales to its only customers, federal agencies. This captive labor force manufactures electronic components, furniture, and clothing. There are some people out here who are mad at reparations because they immediately think it means black people get something at the expense of white people. But I would argue anybody who has been enslaved by the federal government today through the de facto prison slave labor that we employ through the Federal Prison Industrial Inc., the Federal Prison Industries Inc., deserves reparations. And not all of those prisoners are going to be black. I'm sure out of the 21,000 people that the United States government today pays 23 cents to $1.15 an hour to, They deserve reparations, and I'm more than certain not all of those people are black. A disproportionate number of those people are black or non-white, but I'm pretty sure there are some white people who have been incarcerated in the federal system, put to work by the federal government through Federal Prisons and Industries, Inc., who have been super exploited. This is wrong. How could you ever justify this? How could you ever justify this? I don't understand this. Okay, Tom G says, in some ways it's okay to have them work, but I would say minimum wage would work. Then whatever states they're in should get something from the company to pay for their incarceration, I assume. I agree with that, Tom. In general, what we advocate for on this channel is workers' rights. If a person wants to work while in jail, I'm all for that. But pay them the wage that they deserve. Nobody can live off $1.15 an hour, 23 cents an hour, 50 cents an hour. What type of sick shit is this? What type of sick shit is this? You cannot explain how this is justified, that some people will have to work 23 cents an hour. And so I demand reparations for all of those people in state prison and federal prison who have been exploited by these private corporations through their labor. Literally, corporations like Microsoft and Starbucks and government agencies like the Justice Department have exploited labor on their resume, and reparations needs to be paid for all of those people, white and black, Latino, Asian, whoever. That's insane. That's absolutely crazy that that's happening behind bars. Okay, so yeah, Recovering Liberal is a Pakistani bot who says, don't commit crimes. I was in the system and I haven't been in a courthouse or a jail in decades now. Good for you. You are now in the re-education camp where you will now be there forever, okay? But yeah, even if you went to jail, Recovering Liberal, I do not think that you should be super exploited like that. That's wrong. That's wrong for that to happen to you or anybody else. And you know that too. Okay? So we have to send Recovering Liberal out to the gulag. He is out to pasture forever. All right. So union jobs threatened. A captive workforce can make super profits for local, state, and national governments, and slave labor can be pitted against other workers with better paying jobs. There is growing concern, especially among labor unions, that FPI will become more and more privatized. In fact, the FPI Board of Directors has proposed that it expand its services and products to the private sector. Shouldn't the unions make it their business to organize prisoners and demand union wages and conditions so they can't be used as scab labor? There is a bill before Congress called the Prison Industries Reform Act. The act has the backing of corporations and many Republicans. If passed, this act will allow the federal prison industries to compete directly for private contracts while phasing out its 7-year relationship with the government. The bill's sponsor wants to lure factories back from abroad to super exploit prison labor at home. You got to be making this up. This is absolutely insane. They're saying that the way we're going to get the jobs back from Mexico and the Philippines and Bangladesh is by allowing a private corporation to bid for federal contracts so that manufacturing can return to America with our slave labor force behind bars. Absolutely disgusting. I'm going to throw up. That literally wants, God, that's fucking insane. Absolutely insane. And no surprise that many Republicans supported that bill, the bill to make the prison industries be able to exploit workers to make super profits for the government, the state, and private corporations, but bring nothing home for the people. The federal prison population is expected to increase by 50% by the year 2006 from its current 130,000 to 200,000. This expected increase is due to the severity of prison sentences for drug convictions, the elimination of parole at the federal level, and the lack of drug rehabilitation. This means more cheap labor to super exploit. All the repressive arms of the state work hand in hand to build up this imprisoned army of the unemployed, and the sky is the limit. The courts play their part by providing incompetent defense lawyers for poor suspects, railroading innocent people to jail, or handing out harsh terms for minor and nonviolent drug offenses. Then there are those waiting to be jailed. In a December 1998 Atlantic Monthly article, it was reported that the backlog of arrest warrants stands at 2.6 million people because of overcrowding in the prisons. The prison expansion is spiraling out of control. A sector of the capitalist class has a big stake in continuing to enrich itself on the state-subsidized prison industry. Prison expansion has also had a big impact in impoverished rural areas, with devastating layoffs in other industries. Prison construction has created an economic boom in correction jobs and related industries. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. Let's send some people out here. Okay. Let's send some people out here. All right. Nini is up in the chat just raising hell. Nini is just funny. I'll let her live. Colleen Jade says, may God guide you to Islam. I'm already a Muslim. That doesn't make any sense. But I wish all of you, find Islam or find God or whatever helps you grow and become a better person. So, reform the prisons. There are some immediate plans in work to help reform prison conditions. For instance, Delegate Eleanor Holmes Northton from Washington, D.C. has submitted 3 bills in response to the increase of women in federal prisons. One bill will require those states receiving federal funding for prison construction to submit a plan on how they propose to provide health and other services for women inmates. Another bill would require the Bureau of Prisons to utilize existing prison funding to establish 2 pilot community-based facilities in the Washington area for nonviolent, short-term pregnant offenders. And a third bill would establish sentencing alternatives in the federal system, such as allowing first-time nonviolent offenders to serve their sentences at a community-based facility. A fight for prison reform is progressive, especially if there is a struggle from below. But looking at the situation in its totality, these 3 bills, if Congress passes them, are like putting a Band-Aid on a cancer. These bills fail to reach the heart of what is wrong with the prisons. These prisons are concentration camps and modern-day slave plantations for the poor, the oppressed, and the youth who have no real future under this system. Political prisoners in the fight to free Mumia. There are more than 3,000 political prisoners in the U.S. These heroic women and men, the majority of them from nationally oppressed communities, either entered prisons as activists during the 1960s and 70s or became political in jail, like the murdered Black Panther leader George Jackson. They all have at least 2 things in common. They stand against racist repression and other forms of injustice, and the capitalist state wants to silence them. Many political prisoners are well known, like American Indian movement leader Leonard Peltier, who is now free because this was written over 20 years ago. The Move 9 and the Puerto Rican independence fighters remaining in prison. The most recognized prisoner on death row is Mumia Abu-Jamal, the voice of the voiceless. Mumia is more than just another innocent man, like so many who languish in apartheid-like dungeons. In the eyes of the U.S. government, he is guilty of being an uncompromising, unwavering revolutionary who has helped to expose police brutality, the death penalty, and other forms of racist atrocities since he became a member of the Black Panther Party as a teenager. One of the reasons that I have lost respect for Barack Obama is that Obama had the power to free Mumia at any time during his presidency, and yet he didn't. The first Black president couldn't let out a Black man from jail who has been proven innocent multiple times over and over again, a symbol of how our justice system punishes those who dare go against the capitalist status quo, the racist status quo, the sexist status quo. Mumia is a political prisoner of the highest order, a shame to America that he has been incarcerated all this time. That's absolutely insane that he did it, and it's a shame that the first black president couldn't do it. All right? Absolutely insane. So Mumia's fight for a new trial has stimulated unity among progressives and revolutionaries of all nationalities and ages. The struggle to free Mumia and all political prisoners is tied to the overall struggle against a class system that persecutes the poor, workers, the oppressed, and all who resist the tiny clique of parasitic bosses and bankers. Marxists will continue to search for an opening to struggle. They will reach out to both the existing political movement and reach out further to new layers of the masses on these issues. The opening right now with the most potential is the struggle to free Mumia Abu-Jamal. By demanding his right to a new trial, the movement can explain how Mumia got railroaded to death row in the first place. It can also generalize to explain the role of the capitalist courts. These courts railroad to prisons not only revolutionaries like Mumia, but all poor people. We can not only show how Mumia was a victim of a police frame-up and brutality, but also link his situation to millions of others who have been brutalized daily by the cops and will never receive real justice. And Mumia would be the first to say that, yes, this is the right thing to do. This is just not about me, but about the whole rotten capitalist system that is quick to oppress and repress the majority of humanity to make a lousy buck. The most powerful factor that can win a new trial for Mumia, the one capable of making the government step back from this fast-track execution, is the organized force of millions of outraged people from every community. This is the urgent task of the progressive and revolutionary movement in the United States at this time. In the spring of the year 2000, Mumia's case is at a critical point to bring the story of the serious injustice before a broader public. The movement has called a meeting for Madison Square Garden in New York on May 7th. This renowned meeting place, usually considered a showplace for the major spectacles of capitalist society, will for a day become a center of struggle to free a heroic opponent of that same capitalist system. The state, and especially the police force, want to execute Mumia as a vehicle to strengthen the repressive apparatus and to strike a blow against the movement. To save Mumia and free him, the movement has to help create a dynamic atmosphere that will make the ruling class worry about the threat to its stability if the state tries to murder Mumia. Now, at this time, Mumia is not on death row anymore, but he is still behind bars with life in prison. I believe he's like 70 or 80 years old. He poses no threat to society, even if the white supremacists want to continue to, assert that he is guilty of a crime that he's been proven not to be guilty of, but whatever. He should at least be free to live out the rest of his days as a 70 or 80-year-old man. You get what I'm saying? And once again, it's a shame that he has not been free when his innocence has been proven multiple times. Again, free Mumia, and free Mumia. So this is the final paragraph right here. This is the final paragraph right here. If you have any comments or questions for me, put it in the chat. I will read it and we will get to it at the end of this live stream. So, a victory in this case will be a strong first step toward fighting for all the oppressed against the repressive capitalist state. Free Mumia, Leonard Peltier, and all political prisoners. Fight police brutality. Tear down the prison walls. All right, and that's the end of chapter 8. Tomorrow, we're going to be attempting to finish our final chapter of Marxism, Reparations, and the Black Freedom Struggle, compiled by Monica Moorehead. The last chapter is chapter 9, Black Labor and Class Solidarity. Looking forward to reading that. There are how many articles? There's about, 6 articles in about 40 pages or so of that chapter. So hopefully we'll be able to get through it. We haven't read 40 pages before, but hopefully it won't be too long. We might break it up into 2 parts though. But let's see. Anyway, it's been a pleasure doing this live stream. We got a lot of viewers, a lot of comments. It's been very fun chatting it up with all of you. Let's close up the horizontal live stream poll. What is the real purpose of mass incarceration? To generate profits and suppress workers got 67% of the vote, and protect public safety got 33% of the vote. Okay, that's over there. Let's go to the vertical live stream. In the vertical live stream over here, let's see what you numbnuts had to say. Okay, so with how many votes? 82 votes. Does racial profiling ultimately hurt all workers? Yes, it divides workers, got 46% of the vote. No, it prevents crime, got 30% of the vote. Unsure, but fuck Trump and MAGA, got 17% of the vote. And only marginalized people, 6% of the vote. I like those results in general. I like those results. I really like those results. Okay, well, it's been a fun live stream. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who joined the live stream. Please make sure you're staying on topic to talk about our topic here and not other things. Okay? Anybody who is not on topic will instantly get kicked, like this person, John. John, you are forever banished to the shadow realm. Do not come back. Anyway, y'all be easy out there. Y'all be easy. All power to the people. All power to the people, and peace.